All right, hello and welcome to the Crackdown episode, I believe 16. Today we have newly announced leader with us to discuss pretty much some of the offseason changes, a little bit about his career. But I mean, firstly, we should start with is like, how did you make it to the LEC, man? I heard you had to play Orianna to make it to this league. So what are you doing in LEC now? You're signed with Vitality. How did this happen?
I mean, like you said, I only played control mage just last split, so to prove a point, even though I was losing every single game. So at least I played those champions, right? So now I'm here.
Thorin, do you have a take on this? I know you've seen a bunch of times. Like I've seen a bunch of your videos about leader and like how you think that these types of things are kind of like it's kind of like hit or miss, right? Because if it's for your argument to play the control mages, then people will be like, oh, this guy doesn't play the control mages. But then if somebody only plays the control mages, suddenly it's just dog shit to play the control mages, and like you need to be able to play like the Aurelia Kali. So what do you think about this whole idea?
Basically, like, to me, that whole angle is so whack because, like, what other roles do we even judge by, like, the type of champion you play? Like, if you're a carry top laner, you're a carry top laner. We don't go, oh, but he's not the best on the tanks. Like, you go, well, no, we'll try not to play tanks if we can around him. Like, every role, as far as I can tell, and they get fucking Ignar has made an entire career refusing to play the most powerful meta supports, and people are, like, falling over themselves trying to pay him millions of dollars constantly because guess what, on the champions he is good on, he is fucking money, and his style of play clearly has logic to it that doesn't apply to other players who could just play like some basic bitch Janna game, can they? So the problem I think is, like you say there, Dom, you've touched really on my take, which is this. I never understood the whole debate of like, leader doesn't play Orianna and Azir. It's not even true he does play Azir, it's just obviously not his best champion. Therefore, he can't be in LEC. That was never even a reasonable debate, because let's be real, there's people who pick the champions Orianna and Azir in LEC who are fucking garbage. So does them picking the champion and losing help? No. So to me, he was always an LEC level player. The questions for me were things like, how do people think about team construction, or were there issues with him as a teammate? Those at least are interesting angles, with that. Those are reasons to sign or not sign someone. To me, it was always whack, because as you alluded to, I think people just basically decide when they don't like someone, they just flip it and they look for whatever they're not and they judge you by it. So as you kind of alluded to there, Dom, right, the same world in which we're being told that like Orianna and Azir are the most important possible mid lane champions, if your name is Froggen, PoE, etc., you can just go whole years where people are like, this guy shouldn't even be allowed in the league. Where's his fucking Aurelia and Carly and so, like, we can't win, can you? There's only one fucking caps, by the way, guys. There's one in the entire world. Like, why are we all pretending there's 50 caps and perks everywhere? Like, mid lane is one of the hardest roles in the game. So in my opinion, if you're really good at anything, you could probably play in the top region, level of your region, as long as you have the right team built around you.
I mean, I would like to just ask you directly, leader. Like, how much do you think that this perception of you inhibited like your ability to join LEC? Does this just feel like every single split that you've like went into talks with teams, people have like viewed you through this like really negative light, and it feels like there's nothing you can change it? Do you think that like people have a wrong perception of the mid lane role or wrong perception of you? Like, how did this whole like Orianna, Azir, control mage, and you not being able to like play them allegedly like factor into your career so far in trying to make LEC?
So basically, I started like my proper competitive split like in 2019, I would say, when I joined Misfits. Like, I obviously played for them in the UK scene a few games at the end of the year in 2018. But 2019, let's say that was the year that I start off in a proper team with a proper coach and a proper structure. It was like academy teams. Like, this is when it started, I think, franchising, right, in 2019. So from there on out, like I was like really, really hyped to improve and everything. Like I can actually play competitive properly for to start off with. And by that time, champions were getting reworked. Aurelia and Akalia was getting reworked, and these champions, like, it just naturally fit into my champion pool, as I was struggling with champion pools in 2018, when I could only play like 3 champions, I would say, or like 2. And so from there on out, like, I was just slowly building my champion pool because I was an OTP. And thing is, in 2019, I started off with not a coach. We got a coach that was supposed to learn from us. But when you look at it from my perspective, I don't have a coach then. At the start of the
say
year.
that again? So they got you a coach that was supposed to learn from the players?
Yes, this is what I got told, literally. As troll as it sounds, this is what happened. So we were supposed to teach the coach, and I would say that we had some pretty strong personalities in that team at that time. and it was not working out too well, everything. And that was actually an implosion. Like that team was actually an implosion at the start. And then we got Jessis, and Jessis was the person that legit taught me everything. Everything about communication and how to look at the game, you know, like how to be good at the game. Besides the champions, he just worked with what he had, and he just tried to make the best out of it, because we wanted to win, right? All of us obviously wanted to win, all of my teammates as well. So we went ahead and won. And then the second split starts, like I'm still like not playing control mages or anything, and the meta was turning into Azir Corki in summer, if I
Yes.
remember correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
And we played around, I think we played 10 games of LFL before we got properly swapped in to LEC. So I'm still like, it's my development year, I would say, right? Like I just started
your first
competitive.
year.
Yeah, basically it's like, and I'm still trying to develop everything. And I would say I'm a slow learner in things that I'm not comfortable with. So these mages, I would obviously be a slow learner with, but somehow I don't know, I got the grasp of Ryze for some reason, even though it's like range champion and not normal, and I can play, and I could play Azir as well, I would say, to a decent level. Like, even if people don't think so, I would say I'm good Azir. I think even the pros think I'm good Azir, you know, so I got a little bit confident by that. But then, so I start off by getting swapped into LEC, and on my mind, I'm not trying to improve, I'm trying to win. Like I got into it, like from the situation I've been put in, I try to win, like do my best. So I'm not going to sit there and test out stuff, because what we're testing out are players for now. So we can't even test out different comps
Yes.
properly, I would say. So we're sitting there and testing out players to get the best possible combination for both draft and communication and everything. So we don't even get proper time to gel together, right? Properly. So there on out, like everyone knows how that went. I was griefing, I would say, as unfortunate as it is. I played bad, but and I think I was not ready for LEC that split. If I was put into a team like this out of nowhere, but I would say I would be ready for LEC if I just instantly went with my academy, with everything that we learned, and we would actually be able to properly learn. Like, it's no offense to the previous main team players from there, because I'm not saying they were worse than the academy players. I'm just saying that the communication and the way we play, we kind of like it's a team game, right? So even if you're like 5 worst players, 5 individuals won't win against a team, right? That's what I think.
Did you voice this at all, like to the management? Were you like, hey, like I'm not sure if I'm ready for this, or did you just want to like take the opportunity, just get to play LEC because you thought the experience would be valuable? Like, what was your mentality when they approached you and were like, hey, like the main team that was supposed to be a super team is like completely fucking imploding, and we're just gonna start like, you know, using pretty much our B team in LEC? Like, what was your mentality towards it?
Like it's still my first year, right? So I didn't really value this team stuff and playing together for some time and everything. So I didn't know, like, I thought I would like perfectly fit into, you know, like I would be able to fit in. Everything would be good. I have good players around me, like potentially better players around me. Like I would say Hans is like good, you know, and Gorilla played in Worlds. Like on paper, they are better players than the academy players. But I didn't value like how important it is to uh, like have a good connection between players, and have a good like the possibility to have a good conversation with them after the game and to improve together and all of that, and like the look on the game, because everything was so spontaneous and it was just so random, right? And we were still getting perma swapped in and out scrims, like we're sharing scrims between some players and all of that. So, but I was still like super hyped. I would be like, holy shit, how insane would it be? It's my first proper year. Imagine we just turn it around with me. Like how cool would that be in this storyline, you know? Like as embarrassing as it is, that's what was in my head. And like it just came to bite me back. I was naive, you know. I didn't really think through it, and I didn't really value this team spirit and how important it is to be on a team together and like move away from what we have, because every player has a different view on the game. So, and if it doesn't align, like you need to find the middle ground, and we didn't even have the time to find the middle ground.
Yeah, I actually think a point there that people probably missed, because you just briefly touched on it, is basically that was like his rookie year as a player trying to be a competitive player. It's not like, and this is the problem I see all the time with people coming out of the ERLs, it's because nobody follows the ERLs. Like, people barely watch EU Masters, but they basically they just watch the most hyped ERL teams in EU Masters, and then they pretend like they know all the players, right? So what you never hear about is some of the players have been in ERLs for like 5 years. They've just been playing like an entire career there. Well, if that guy joins the LEC, I don't want to hear people hyping that guy as a rookie. It's like, oh, he could get way better. It's like, what are the odds? He's been playing half his fucking career, mate. The difference is when players really have come from, like, you know, they've played like one split elsewhere. In his case, he played literally essentially one split worth of ERL and one EU Masters. And if anything, it's one of those scenarios where like success can actually hold you back, because they did so well in the RLs and he was literally carrying, he was like the MVP of the entire tournament, that of course Misfits, who totally mismanaged their team that year, decided like, right, well, instead of waiting until the off season and then we have to decide between a guy who's only played in the RL or buy another player, why don't we just try him out now? And so they tried him out in a totally fucked up scenario, didn't end up keeping him anyway. But like, I don't believe that they ever did that in any positive way. That's just that thing that people do in America now, where it's like Immortals did the year after Dom, where it's like, right, well, the team shit the bed, so just start trying the other ones out and maybe we keep one or two of them if it's all right. It's like, it's actually a super cynical way to look at things. But I think the fan angle is the wackest one there, because basically in less than 1 year, he already had been completely like fucking typecast, like can't play any of these champions. Oh, he's done already after these games. Like I said, the reason I made that video is because I myself didn't realize how many fucking insane amount of lineups they tried that split. They tried something like 6 different lineups while he was playing in that one split. Dude, you could take any player in the league. Take Caps and let me pick 6 different lineups of players. And I'll tell you what, he's going to have some fucking bad games. Try just swapping his jungler in and out every 2 games and then swapping a different bot lane after that. Like, how the fuck is he going to play the game?
Unlike a 10th place team.
Yeah. That's why he was trying to explain it there. Like, obviously, he doesn't necessarily think that on paper at the time Neon was better than Hansama. But the point is, if you played with Neon loads and loads and loads and loads, and someone just swaps in Hansama, it's going to be pretty different. Doesn't matter how good or bad they are at being an AD carry. So, yeah, I think people totally overblew that whole thing. And unfortunately, I will say, this is where media can be tricky. Because even though I think it was already a minor issue, I do think when LIDER came on Elitist United, the show that I did with Veteran, where the whole thing is, obviously, Veteran brought people like him on to big them up and give them their moment, but because he kind of like argued in a way that I would just say it wasn't very eloquent. I knew what he was trying to say, where he kind of argued that, like, you know, maybe I won't need to learn these champions, maybe I can go the route I do. What he actually tried to make an argument about that a lot of people misunderstood was LIDER didn't say, I think Orianna and Azir are trash and I'll never play them. Or he didn't say, I think you should only play Echo, fucking Zed and Irelia. What he actually said was, every time champions like Orianna come into the meta, there will be counters, which I play, which are in the... So he was trying to imply, like, I'll still be able to succeed, etc. But unfortunately, I do think people took that as, like, he'll only ever play these 3 champions and he never wants to play the others. Like, I don't know if you ever got that vibe, LIDER, but I got the sense that, like, just the way people, like, took, like, a basic version of that conversation, like, they did think that you were, like, stuck in your ways or something.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't word myself correctly, but like you said, this is what I meant by it, right? Because if there's always a control mage coming into meta, there will always be some kind of counters to it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Well, Thorin, what do you think about like this idea from like players that want to have like a shot at LEC or LCS, and then they get like these like really like kind of like you said, like a cynical, like kind of fucked up shot. Like what do you think the value is that compared to like the potential harm that it can cause? Because I feel like it's really tough if you're a player who's like been in NA Academy, for example, like the Immortals players, and you know you really want a shot to prove yourself at LCS, but then it feels like if you take one of these opportunities and the perception is that you're not good, even though your team is super fucked up, you just end up like having that asterisk next to your career, and it could be like so hard for you to potentially get another shot. So like, where do you value?
I'll give you an obvious example. If you've watched LCS, let's just use Parlor Fox. If people don't know, this is not a troll. Cloud9 were literally considering just going with him as the mid lane and not buying perks. Like, there's a world where that's what could have happened. Instead, he had to go, obviously, and was just an okay player. But as a result, where's the hype around him anymore, Dom? I don't hear any hype. Now, that doesn't mean he was bad. I don't think his team was that good personally. But that, as you're saying, he basically, it's like, think of boxers, right? The reason why they feed cans to boxers and have them fight people who aren't that good is because they want the record to look amazing so that two people who are 18-0 have the title fight. And before the fight, you go, well, fuck, they're both undefeated. This is going to be the greatest fight ever. And the hype is what's peak. It's not that the fight takes place. It's that to get the most actual interest in it, you have to like build the storyline. So similarly, in that case, if the Parlofox guy had come into Cloud9, the hype would be incredible. People would be, but maybe now everyone just, maybe he never makes it now. Maybe he's just an average LCS player. Maybe he's not even in the LCS in 2 years. Could be. So basically, the question you're asking about, Dom, is one I'm really torn on. Because personally, the way I think about competing, etc., I've always told people, like, forgiven this back in the day when they used to take splits off when they were fired. I used to tell them, look, I think personally you should just try and play for any team you can and then just worry about it after that. You know, like improve, do the best you can, try and have a good attitude. And then if your team's bad, you just have to hope that the right people see it and know that it wasn't your fault. But I do totally understand, though, especially seeing cases like leaders, etc. Like, I do feel like if you take the wrong chance and you think, oh, it's worth doing, though, it could actually set you back years and years and years and years. Like, I'll give you a weird one on a side that people won't be thinking of with this deal, Dom. Which is, I tell you what, if I'm him, I would actually be thinking now, fuck, I'm glad they didn't ask me to join Fnatic in the off-season. Because Fnatic right now is nothing like you would have thought. Like, there's no Reckless. The team's completely collapsed. They've got a fucking top laner who doesn't look that good. They've made the fucking the current top laner the jungler. Like, that looks like a train wreck. He could have been on that team if they'd have asked him to join.
And then he would get blamed.
Yeah, instead, in a mad way, and fans won't get this, he's actually, in my opinion, got a better lineup now than Fnatic has, probably a better lineup than they would have had, and he might even be getting paid more. So, yeah, like, and also the pressure would be insane. Like, basically, as Nemesis saw, if you aren't caps or something like that, you're going to get wrecked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So after this period, leader,
what do you think on that though, Dom? Like, do you actually think people should, like, because that's basically the question we're asking is this: if someone tells you you either have to stay at Academy or ERL and hope you get the big offer that you want, like you want like a Schalke offer or fucking Fnatic or whatever, or you can take the I'll just use this one to not seem rude, SK, because they always take rookies, or you can take like SK or Astralis, right? If you had that choice, would you gamble on it, knowing what you know?
I think it just, for me, I would just say that it depends on like my confidence in myself, how good I really thought I was. Like, if I thought I was like a top tier talent, then I would probably try to hold out because I would feel like I'm going to get the shot eventually. Like, it's inevitable. But if I was like one of the players that I could tell the community perception of me was that like I'm like dog shit, then I would definitely take the shot because I would just want to like have any chance of like being able to perform in that situation, any chance of being able to show my skill level. So I really think it just comes down to like weighing your own perceived like perception or like your own like perceived value within the community, and then also just like knowing how good you really are, because sometimes it'll really mismatch. Like, the community will think you're fucking great and you might not know that like you're not insane or anything. I mean, Armut, I think, is a great example of somebody who I think the community was super, super high on in the beginning of the split. And if you talk to Armut, he talks about himself. He's like, yeah, I was dog shit at the beginning of the split. Like, I was horrible, and now I got like pretty good by the end of it, but I'm still like not the best top laner in LEC, which I think is a really like healthy mindset to be honest with yourself, regardless of what people tell you. I think it's really easy to just look in the community and see a bunch of positive comments. Like, you know, you could be Armut, you could read the world's thread, and it's like, oh, this guy's so much better than a Rome, and like, oh my God, like Turkish top laners are insane, and you can just feel really good about yourself, feel content, and then not actually have the desire to improve because like you already are so hyped. So I think it's just really it's really just about like how much other people value you, which is really hard. I mean, that's kind of what I wanted to go into next from Leader.
Just ask Leader about this thing, because I'm pretty sure he has a thought on it. He's literally had to go through this twice now.
Yeah, so that's essentially my next question would be like, if you were in that situation again, obviously, like, you know how it played out, but if you're in that situation again, do you think that you would have like tried to stress that you didn't want the shot, or was like part of the reason you got the shot because you seemed like you were down for it? Like, how do you view the whole situation now looking back?
The Misfits situation, right?
Yeah,
no, like, and after that, like, for example, if you'd have been in a scenario like I described it, you could join basically the worst team in LEC. Like, would you have taken the offer, or would you have held out for like a better offer?
Or maybe you did.
I mean, looking at it now, I would not want to join any bad team. I would not want to join a team where there are already problems in. I would rather join a team where it's actually a fresh start. You know, that's what I would do. So if I could go back in time and they told me to go play LEC, I would probably say hell no, or something like this, you know, like I'm not going to play. Like, I don't want to play here. Like, if I'm going to play, I want to instantly play with my teammates, and then we can see how it goes. Something like this. I just don't want to, like, I would not want to, like, join in and out of this thing because, like I said, this team spirit thing, like knowing your teammates and like this shit. Like after I watched the Thorin video, like that's when I actually realized it. Like holy fuck, this shit is actually so important. Like I didn't even realize how much it actually impacted everything. So I got an offer I got an offer from SK and I got an offer from XL and I got an offer from Fnatic as well. Like start of 2021 it is, yeah. So end of 2020. And like with the rosters I got like in SK, I obviously voiced my opinions on what players I would want to join. And this SK bot lane, this one was not in when I was getting like when they were talking to me. So
Sure.
it was another bot lane, like basically Crowny and Limit, you know. And back then, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really have much of an opinion on Crowny. Like just watching him play, he didn't really stand out to me. But when they told me about his stats and everything, like he was actually really insane, you know. Like looking at his LEC stats and everything. And looking at Limit as well, like I was not so high on Limit at the start of 2020, I think. That's when he played LEC. But at the end of 2020, he looked really fucking good, I would say. You know, like someone that I would actually want to play with. And he was basically a rookie as well. He was in his rookie year, so like I was kind of excited to play with Limit, and I wanted a different jungler than Tinks. And they said they would look into it and everything, and it didn't happen. And then they said like they're going to take blue anyways. So I didn't like. I went basically from first priority to no priority at all, and that offer just went away. So I had still two more offers on the table. I had XL and Fnatic, and then I was talking to XL and everything, and the roster was as it is right now. And it was like okay, I'm listening. Like I just want to listen to everything and see how my value is, you know. I wasn't really interested in joining them at the start. Like I would not even want to join them, I think. Even if I got the offer and I was their first priority, I would not want to join that team at all, I would say. I would
What
just rather
basis?
play. Huh?
Oh, any reason you want to give us?
I don't think the team had any potential, I would say.
Okay.
There was no potential in the team with this roster, the one that we're
Okay.
talking about right now. With the Jesu and Treats, right? This roster, I didn't see any potential. And looking at my perspective, like I went from winning EU Masters to griefing in LEC to not even winning EU Masters, two splits in a row. I got quarterfinals and semifinals, and now like people already
Semifinals
have a
again.
bad opinion about me. Yeah, people have a really bad opinion of me already, basically. So I would so I'm like sitting there like, okay, so if I join excel with a team that I don't believe in, it's GG BenQ. It's completely over for me. Like I will never get a shot again, and I will have to completely smurf it up somehow. A miracle needs to
Yes.
happen for us to do like good. And honestly, like I could play for KDA. I think it's really easy to play for KDA as a mid laner, but first of all, I don't even play the mid laners to play for KDA, and second of all, I'm not like a KDA player as well. If I feel like the game is going to lose, like I will just try to go do something, flip it or something somewhere to try to win the game in somehow. But that is like kind of in the past anyways now. But
By the way,
yeah.
just to go back, because I feel like you should touch a little bit more on what you like alluded to earlier, because I've talked to you about it privately, so I know what you mean about that. But when you said in my video, when I brought up like team aspects and communication, like what you're basically implying is that you just didn't understand how much other people in the scene value that, right? Like for example, I've had a bunch of coaches where I've done interviews, and they basically they put that above like player skill. They think, you know, like how is the guy easy to communicate with? Does he have a good rapport with his teammates? Can he be like coached, etc.? So some of them they claim they at least rank that above like how good you are at the role of the game. So like is that kind of what you're alluding to there? Like you hadn't thought of that as a factor before?
I think it's kind of more specific, to be honest. Like this coachability thingy. Like I heard coaches like if you play Orianna or like control mage, then you like easier to coachable because it's a champion that is coming in and out all the time, and it's like kind of easy to coach around. But it doesn't seem like some coaches do this now. People don't really watch at communication. They don't they didn't ask for VODs back in the past, I would say. They don't look at the point of view of other players as well. And you just have to ask the teammates how it is to communicate and everything. Like, is he actually willing to, like, is he smart or is he stupid? Is he willing to learn? Is he not delusional? All of this, I would not count myself as delusional. I would say that I am a little bit stubborn, but then again, I will always listen, and I obviously want to win the game. I don't want to be right. So
are all junglers delusional?
Yeah, pretty much.
You pretty much have to be, don't you, to do the job.
I mean, it is what it is. Okay, I just wanted to ask that. One thing I wanted to throw in, because I wanted to nuance my opinion a little bit more. When you asked the thing about like joining a team, Thorin, I would say that a lot of it also depends on. Wait, I think we might be lagging for a second. Let me just wait until it goes back. Should be fine now. I think it should be not an F anymore. But anyways, I wanted to nuance my opinion. I think, and one thing that I really consider is it mid split or is it something that's being done like before the split? I think if you have time to like join a roster and you're able to like scrim beforehand and you can get a feel for your teammates and you can try to like make your own mark on the team, I think it's a lot easier to take an opportunity like that and like really be able to at least show something than if you're just thrown into a situation mid-split, team is failing, everyone on your team is like depressed from all the losses and stuff, and the environment is just like, it's heavy. Like I don't know how to describe it, but like when you're on a team that has chain losses together, just being in the environment like weighs on you, and it feels like hard to even speak up or hard to even like bring positivity because it's almost like looked down upon like when people are like in that super negative mindset. So yeah, I think that I think that matters a lot when it comes to like, are you willing to take one of these offers? Is timing of it? Is it mid split? Is it before a split? Is it in the off season? Because I mean, I think it's even easier before spring split to decide on one of these things because the game changes, right? Like there could be like just new champions that are meta. Like your teammates could be potentially adapting to the patch and adapting to the season better than other people. As a jungler, the jungle normally changes in the off season, and then like in between spring and summer there's changes, but normally not as drastic. So yeah, I think a lot of that actually would factor into that whole mentality for me.
By the way, one thing I want to actually touch on that Leader brought up there about this whole angle of like, how coachable the player is. Listen, from the coach's perspective, I totally understand that. It's obvious why they would want all the players to listen to them. They would want up players, ideally, like he says, if let's be real, like Orianna and Zanzarah are going to be played forever in mid lane. So obviously if someone can play that, there's one less headache. I can always just put these easy comps in that everyone else is doing. My problem is this. Listen, some of you out there who are coaches, I've got a sad wake-up call for you. You aren't fucking Alex Ferguson or Phil Jackson or Jose Mourinho or some genius coach who needs to be listened to and who can craft everyone. Like, those guys are so next level. And by the way, they didn't start like that. They had to learn it and then prove it. And it's their track record that allows them to have the control they have over their players. Some of you guys who want all your players to be coachable, that's the worst thing that could happen to you because you couldn't change those players to be brilliant. So the reason why I find it like outrageous in a case like Leaders is I get it if they mean like, right, I have a couple of players. They're both like okay in the ERLs. I haven't got much money on my org, so I've got to take one of them. So I'm going to choose this guy that I've heard, is like really coachable, adaptable, blah, 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 blah. Like, in some of these teams we're talking about, mate, just being able to get a player like Leaders, like that's enough, mate. Just coach the rest of the team. Like, let him play how he's going to play. And when you become a great coach, maybe you can have some input into like every detail how people play. Because I feel like a lot of people who are in esports who are coaches, dude, I know this for a fact. A lot of them love to read books like I do about those great coaches. The problem is this. They read the book and put it down and think they fucking are those people. They think they are Alex Ferguson. They can come in the dressing room like, right, you're not a striker anymore. You're actually like a fucking left winger. I'm going to use you as... Like, who are you? Who are you to coach these people? So what I would say is this. Bear in mind, a lot of coaches are learning the job themselves. I think they should have a way more open mind to how players play. And initially, when you're a coach, in my opinion, it should be a negotiation. It's like, right, here's some ideas I have. What do you think of it? Because there a way we can like make an arrangement here? Like sometimes you try this, or this guy gets to be the sacrificial player in this game. You can do that, but some of them I think are like overstepping their bounds. Like one day I hope we are in a world where there are super genius coaches who can control everything. But I don't think there's many of them in League of Legends right now. So I think it's kind of inappropriate to go too ham on that that angle. And a lot of them, like I know it's because in the past they had no control, but now it feels like some of them are trying to get too much control too fast. That's my take, at least.
I mean, I think a lot of that also has to be with, like, when you're a coach, like, you're kind of playing the role for the people above you, like the GM, the owner. It's like you want to show that you're a good coach, and if you're there, you know, you're coaching the players like really hard, and you're like telling them what to do in the game. From somebody that doesn't like really know the game, it looks good optically. It's like, oh, look at this guy, like look at how he's.
Like you're the reason why,
yeah, exactly. So I feel like that's something that is kind of like. In the argument as well, it's like a lot of the coaches are fucking posers, and then they're just trying to make it look like they're good coaches instead of actually like trying to win at all costs. So I mean, that definitely factors in. So let's start talking about your time right after Misfits. So you played for Misfits in the LEC for like the last few games of the split, and this is like where things kind of like changed for you, right? Because you thought that you were most likely going to like continue playing for Misfits or potentially play in the LEC. Then you ended up not
told by that, yeah.
Yeah, and then you ended up like not getting the offers that you wanted, and you had to go back to regional league. So how did this like affect you going forward? Because obviously it must feel kind of like you're taking a step back in your career because you had like got a taste of playing in LEC. So how was this period for you in this transition back to the regional leagues?
I mean, I don't know. I didn't really get that depressed or like sad about it. It was just a little bit shocking, I would say. Like I was a bit surprised that they can just promise me that I'm going to play and then suddenly not do this. So I was a little bit mind blown. But it's fine. It was a new GM. It was a new management. They can do whatever they want to, and the coach can apparently like choose whatever player they want to have. I don't know. Like I think personally that is a little bit troll. That a new coach comes in. And then he just can decide to kick everyone he wants to and like leave everyone. Like I think that's really, really troll. But whatever, it's fine. They promised me I'm going to play. I didn't play. I got kicked. And then I was like just chilling, doing nothing. And then I was talking to Czekolad, and we're kind of good friends. And I was still talking to Obsess. I was down to play with Obsess again. Like Obsess.
You rate him very highly, right?
Is he still stuck in Master or no?
I don't even know where he's stuck at, but he's always stuck. But not my point. Like Obsess was one of the most enjoyable teammates I would say that I worked with. He was always listening to criticism. He was never like, even how direct people were, like he would always take it like for the better, right? Like he would always try to do the best he could do with the criticism he got, you know. I think he's good for ERL. I think you like if you want to like make talent like around him, you should for sure have Obsess as your jungler. Like
it's like a veteran presence almost.
Yeah. Right now, like I don't know. I wouldn't say he was a veteran presence for me in when I joined Misfits. I would say he's kind of fairly new as well to competitive, to be honest. He played like a split in like Sombolance in GO French, and then
he's a good supportive jungler, basically.
He is someone that will make you look good. He will sacrifice himself for you. He will always like he wants to win the game as well. And he was one of the most enjoyable teammates I had. So I was like, yeah, I will just play with Obsess again. Because okay, so a story. We were going to have Tinks in summer 2019. I think it was, the year that I played LEC. We were going to get things somehow. I don't know. Obsess got kind of kicked or something. I don't know what happened. It's whatever. And then nobody wanted to play with things from the team. Nobody. Everyone wanted to keep Obsess. So that's how highly, like, even my teammates rated Obsess. You know, like we didn't even want things. Like we wanted to keep Obsess. We didn't want to change at all, to be honest. So I rated Obsess highly. I was kind of friends with Czekolad. He was in our friend group, and I knew Promiscu would for sure be good for ERLs. Like even though all the bad notion around him, you know, and so it's like my bot lane was really good, and top lane I played with Tolkien actually in my first ever competitive few games in German League 2017, I think it was. A few games with him, and he was like one of the nicest guys. He was super professional, and like he was already in Mouse, so we joined Mouse with Candy Frost, who is for his Misfits head coach now. So Like this is the team we got gather around, and we're aiming to win. So I was once again stuck in a situation where I had to choose between trying to improve in control mages or try to win again, because I got demoted from LEC right now. Like I don't know if it sounds bad or something, but in my head it sounded really, really like a dilemma. Like I have to choose. I had to like slow my team down a little bit in improvement and everything, and I would basically kind of be a new player, you know, kind of playing these mages, and I have to like learn, and people have to play differently around it compared to my usual communication when I play
Do you think
the
it's
other
like
champions.
do you think it's that hard of a transition, or do you think you could have maybe like incorporated like one and still keep like most of your champion pool, but just like have like one pick that you're working on that you're trying to like get to that level? Do you think that like it's really that black and white, that it's like you have to go back to like ground zero pretty much and rebuild as a player if you wanted to like learn these control mages?
People don't realize that when you pick a champion, like you want to do different stuff, and your communication as a player changes because you need to know what you need and how do you want to do stuff and how you want people to play around it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you don't need to play around some stuff. The champions I played needed to be played around. I knew how I would communicate. I knew exactly what I would want to do, and I would be kind of leading the flow of the game with my champion pick. And I would say it would be different communication-wise for everyone if that changed. Like maybe I'm delusional about this or anything, but you have to play differently the game if a champion is different into the game. Let's say you have a Yumi in bot lane, you don't want to take skirmishers or anything in bot lane. You know, you'll say you have an Orianna in mid lane compared to a Kiana. You don't want to take river fights if it's going to be a 3v3 river fight. You want to play on your terms. Everyone wants to play. Every champion has their own terms. So yeah, basically, I decided to, like, I knew I'm really, really fucking bad at learning champions that are out of my comfort zone, like I said before. So I just chose to like keep on doing what I was doing, and obviously I was picking up the different champions. Like I think I had the most champions played in Prime League as well that whole year. Like it was just different.
Just not the ones that people want.
Yeah, it's not exactly. It's not the ones that people want, but it was the ones that I thought would win us the games. I was just playing Camille mid lane, even though it was a shit matchup, just because it looked good for the team comp, everything. Like I just played random shit all the time, what I thought would be good. And obviously mages can be good in every single team comp, right? Like that's the thing around it. But I just decided to do what I was always doing because I wanted to win again. Like it would just look embarrassing, I think, if I didn't win again EU Masters after winning it going to LEC. So this was kind of what happened.
So
people want an obvious example of what he's talking about, because if we make it specifically about LIDER, if they haven't watched him play, they're just going to assume this like extreme thing, like he can't play the major. What he's saying about like the way it changes how he has to communicate, how his team plays around him. The obvious example is fucking Hylissang, right? What is the reason why it's literally been okay for Hylissang to just int whole splits away when he has to play like Nautilus every game? Because you know, if you can put him on the other champions, he is the best in the fucking world on Pyke or whatever, isn't he? Like when he gets his champion, he is unbelievable, but you can see even he has massive problems with playing like he's on fucking Thresh or Pyke when he's not on those champions. Like he actually tries to take fucking like fights in the like fog of war that don't make any sense for some of the champions he's playing. So if a brilliant player like that, a player I'm pretty sure a lot of people would acknowledge one of the best to ever play in LEC, if that's how they are, it's one of the reasons why it's another area. I don't know how much you talked about this on Face Check, Dom, but one area I always liked that the way LS talked about it. I know now it's been memed to death, but you know, he always uses those phrases of like how you pilot the champion. Well, I think a lot of fans don't understand, because I think I'm like the fucking LS whisperer or something, like the only one who could. It's like I need him to talk in my ear like a fucking ventriloquist dummy, and I'll tell you what he's really trying to say. So basically, the problem is what LS means by that is, even the kit of the champion is so rarely the same. There's a few that have similarities, that if you're amazing at one kit, the things your brain is trying to do and thinking it can do in the game are going to be so different if you put it on a champion that has none of that kit, that has no abilities like that. So like the idea that what we do in League is we just call you I am a good mid laner. He is a fourth best mid. It's like on what champions? In what scenario? What type of team does he have to build around him? So in my opinion, almost every player in LEC has limitations like that. It's just that we just ignore it ignore it for most of them. And then in certain cases like this, we just hyper focus on it. Because I think that's like a mad overrated aspect. Like the idea that like, oh, can't everyone who's good just play these champions? Like it's never existed ever in League of Legends as far as I can tell. It's very rare you have people who can play all the champions that are meta.
Yeah, and I think that there's definitely times where you get to see like how playing your own style can be a benefit. I mean, if you look at RNG,
Invest, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
Look at RNG this MSI. Like they were willing to just play champions that they were good at that weren't necessarily the best in the meta. I mean, Kai'Sa's not a bad champion. I mean, some people will say that you should never pick this champion. Sometimes it's a don't pick champion. But like if you're the best Kai'Sa in the world, why can you not like trust yourself to pilot to the champion to a degree where you're able to get through matchups that might be tough, or like understand like all the different timings where you can like fight or when you need to play safe? Because I feel like that's really what goes into it. Like your communication is going to change based on what you know your champion can do, and the more that you understand your own limitations, the better you can be at communicating exactly what you need from your team or exactly when you're strong. So I think that sometimes people overvalue playing the good champions at a subpar level. It's like I mean,
yes,
we're seeing the guy that's replacing Melitza right now, but like, is a Melitza
basically isn't it the same discussion we basically had for the last 6 months about Rioma versus Demonte? That's like the best example ever, right? It's like the problem is, listen, I know they still don't get it to this day, Dom, in 100 Thieves. We understand you wanted to play Azir, you fucking morons. Just the person you're putting in the server wasn't competent. You couldn't have played Azir and won Ellie's. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in your brain. You go, but the perfect comp would be Azir. Yeah, that means you have to play a subpar player, and we also understand. God, we understand, Papa Smithy, that you wouldn't have won LCS with Demonte. But you know what? You might have had fun, not just being fucking garbage, like 5th best team or something. Like that series against TSM was one of the most offensive draft series of all time. What it showed was you could basically like fucking, the other team could have shown up with like no legs and they would have beaten you in a sprint. That's how bad you are. So like, I don't know why people still don't get that one, Dom. It's because they just reduce all opinions to like fucking sound bites, don't they? Because I always thought that was like the best example ever of that. It's basically a discussion about what your philosophy on the game is. Is there one global meta, or is there like what works best for you?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure that I can get Leader to pick Azir next split in LEC and shuffle people the wrong way and generally int the entire game. Like, I'm sure that that's like achievable. So what the fuck is the point? Like, what the fuck is the point of like having somebody else do that? Like, shit, at least we'll have a chance of like playing something else if Leader's in the team. But yeah, so
as a random aside, by the way, just so we can get this out of the way, sure. I want to actually ask. I want to know if Leader really thinks this, because I also do like to do, because I know how dumb the average fan is. Like they're fucking morons. So I do actually like to also use like low level thinking for why people do things. So I'm not joking. I think a real reason why people wanted Leader to fail is because they heard he was like really good on Yasuo. And first of all, everyone in League insists on saying that when you're really good at one champion and also other champions, that you're a one trick on it. Please stop giving me brain cancer. I can't fucking handle it anymore. If you're a one trick, that's the only trick you have, you dumb cunt. It's a one trick. You can't be a one trick on this champion and a one trick on this. That's multiple tricks.
He's a one trick on melee champions. He's a one trick on melee champions.
That's the logic, right? So, but I actually genuinely think that when they see it, I know what plebs are like. You know how people on Reddit talk about team comps as though it was their game in silver, and you just go like, bro, these champions aren't even the same ones you're playing. They do the same with these ones. So everyone knows on Reddit, like, bloody, what's this? The 7-in-1 Yasuo, the 1-in-7. I always get the 1-in-7 one. Like some mad boomer take on League of Legends. Dude, people want all Yasuo players to fail because they think every Yasuo player is just like that. Like, it's not like that guy who entered my game in Bronze 2. It isn't. It's a pro player who's really good at that champion. Give me a break.
Definitely. All right, so let's go back to the first split. So this is like when you're transitioning. Like, so you gave your take on like what you chose to do, right? Like how you wanted to play the champions that was going to win you the game rather than learn champions potentially at a slower level and look bad and like hold your team back. In retrospect, do you think that this like hurt your career, or do you think that like you would have like if you were more selfish and you were like, fuck it, I'm just gonna play like Orianna, Azir, and like I'm gonna have to fucking learn these champions, and these people are just stuck in like Leader prison while I'm learning the champions? Do you think that would have benefited your career?
I mean, it would probably catch the eye of Youngbuck maybe, or XL or SK.
Okay.
But I think, I think good coaches that actually like understands more about individuality and stuff looked at me. I think they would actually understand that I don't need to play Orianna and Syndra and stuff like to be considered a good player. and I can give a lot of examples of coaches like this. But I mean, the coaches that took me in, for example, I think they're pretty smart. For example, I think they're really, really good. Like, they're not stuck in the past about this Orianna and everything, and they actually try to help an individual player how to play the game as well. And Genesis was the same as well, because he was a player, right? So, and he went to coach, so he basically understands the game more and how people think, how people feel in different situations and everything. So he was really good at this. Like, Nelson was messaging me as well, like with really nice, like what he thinks and everything, and like it was like nice, you know. People that actually watch will know that I'm not a shit player, basically. That's what I think.
Yeah. So in general, you think it's probably worth it to just continue playing to win within EU Masters rather than like the selfish approach of trying to appease other people, or like, I guess, clogging up the holes that people thought you had in your gameplay?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I don't want to be picked up just because I started playing Orianna Sinjo, and that's what people wanted. I want to be picked up because people think with the way I play and what I can bring to the team, that we can win. That's why.
By the way, Dom, that's another thing I really hate about this whole topic. The reason why, like I said before, in my opinion, the real reason LIDER didn't get an LEC, there's three factors. One is maybe people only saw LEC before and they maybe don't even know how crazy all the different lineups are. The fact that they came in midway through the split, blah, 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 all that factors. Maybe they just saw a couple of LEC games. It was a couple that he did bad on, like some of the first ones. Or two, they've heard he's a bad teammate, so they're just a coach who doesn't want to bring, like another player in who they have to work with, blah, blah, blah. It sounds like more work. I get that. Or third is this whole angle of like the idea that like, oh, maybe he's actually like toxic as an actual teammate, like, oh, he's rude to him. Because here's the problem. I don't buy that it's a good faith argument, Dom, because as you say, first of all, it makes no sense to say the reason I won't take LIDER is because he doesn't play Azir and Orianna. If there's one thing we're not lacking in fucking League of Legends, it's mid laners who play Azir and Orianna. They're like the entire fucking role. Have you ever watched solo queue? Have you ever seen anyone in pro play? Every fucker plays them. So that doesn't even make sense as a good faith argument, because as you alluded to, if you wanted to play who plays those champions, you wouldn't recruit LIDER anyway. You'd go and get one of those guys. There's a million people in the RLs playing those champions. And then secondly, in my opinion, it's like even if he had have played those champions, they would have just switched to some other reason. Like that's just someone who doesn't like him. Like they don't like him or they don't like the story about. They'd have another reason. Oh, but I heard this teammate said you were bad. So I don't believe it actually would have worked. Like I think he did the right approach, which is he played a couple of games of Azir when it made sense. Other than that, he just played his champions. And I actually think, by the way, that's why I made that video. I actually think what he did when he went back to the ERLs made the best possible case he should be in ARL. Because what he did was he went down, and even though everyone thinks he's just a one trick on Yasuo and really, he played about like 8 different champions or something that he had wins on, and he was just playing every possible matchup. So what he actually showed me was what I told you a year ago, which is what if you can just build a totally different style of mid lane around him? Well, you can. He has the whole champion pool for it. He just doesn't play the most fucking basic bitch mid laners. Okay.
Well, I mean,
it's not the end of the world.
The thing that's so strange about this time period is like in season 9, I feel like this was kind of the point where like DoNB completely like shattered the idea of like being a stereotypical mid laner, right? Like season 9, the end of it was him playing Nautilus mid, Scion mid, Rumble mid, all these picks that no one else was playing, and just like winning the world championship, being like the most active mid laner and having such a huge effect on the game. So I felt like, you know, this argument would have made sense maybe if you go back in like season like 5, season 6, where it felt like that's what people were forced to do. But in this era, like you literally saw somebody else like win a world championship while not playing Azir. Like DoNB still doesn't play Azir to this day. He plays a little bit of Orianna, but it's like, okay, so LIDER plays a little bit of Azir and he doesn't play Orianna, whereas like DoNB does it the other way around. I don't really see much difference in terms of like champion pools, right? So I don't know. I feel like mastery on a champion is super overlooked. So if we want to,
one thing wants to come in on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many champions did you play? Just tell us.
I mean, I played 17 champions in season 10. Like last year, I played 17 different champions, and I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 games of champions that I played once, and I did play Azir. I see 3 wins and 1 loss. Not bad. The green KDA popping off, but point is, people have this notion or like this view on me that if I pick my assassin or whatever, I will stomp everyone and I will stomp everything and I will win every matchup or anything and I will be 10-0 or something in ERL. But people don't really realize that there's some stuff that you can't do on control mages and stuff compared to the other champions, right? You can't just jump in 1v2 or like and outplay on Azir if you're except if you're like super late into the game, you know, and you're like playing with range properly. Like I'm not saying I'm a good Azir game player. Like, I'm like the best Azir player compared to the assassins I play. I'm not saying I'm not as good on that champion as I am on them, but it doesn't mean that I can't pick them if the situation is good for it. You know, I always pick the champion that I think is the best in the situation and that will win us the game. And I don't think I'm a bad Azir player, but it's not a champion that I can get level 3 as Kiana and solo kill enemy mid laner for fun, accidentally one-shot him. It's not a champion like that. It has its different spikes. It excels in 30-minute games, and it has a different way of getting played around compared to other champions. And people don't really realize that. People want me to go 20-0 and completely make a montage in every single game on Azir and Corki. That's what it sounds like to me. Like if I played in ERL, I would have to completely be a machinery on these champions and completely 1v9 and solo kill left and right, 100 CS up. And that's what it sounds like, what people want to hear from me, but it's just not possible sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, like Thorin says, if it wasn't the champion pool issues, it would be something else. And the other thing that people always jump to is, oh, leader is toxic. Now, I know as somebody who is like, you know, I was considered toxic, even though like in a team environment, you can't find one teammate that I ever played with in fucking 6 years that will tell you I was like a bad teammate. But like, I'll still see to this day on Reddit, well, Dom was a toxic teammate. That's like why he retired, because no one wanted to play with him. People would have done the same thing to you, right? Like I hear right now, people will be like, oh, well, it's not just champion pool issues. It's that leader's toxic and he's going to destroy the team. Oh, leader and Selfmade on a team, this shit is going to fucking implode. It's going to be an L9 fist fight after like one blue goes the wrong direction. So what do you think about like this notion of like you being toxic? Where do you think it comes from? How overplayed is it? Like, is there anything that you can do to like, you know, change people's perception of it? Like, what do you think about this whole narrative around you?
I mean, obviously I was toxic in solo queue, you know, but I think it's really, really different because it's like when you meet a teammate, I'm not going to go tell him to get a disease or anything, you know, just because he chose in a scrim game. I will always say like it's fine or something like this. Like you can always improve or whatever. And I would say it comes from after the Misfits thing as well. That's what I heard, that people actually thought I was toxic and I was hard to work with. I asked all of my teammates and everything. Even all of my teammates, after I made the tweet longer, said that I was not toxic or like I was not hard to work with or anything like that, you know. So if you ask the players, it's like the proof is there, you know. I don't even have the money to go and bribe all of them to write all of this. So it's like,
well, now you do, but before maybe not.
So basically, that's what happened, and then it's like the toxicity in solo queue. That's all, but it doesn't really correlate with toxicity in team environment. I think it's completely grief to think this, but apparently we imploded. Sorry to leak, but we played first scrim, and we completely imploded. Had the fist fight and everything. I mean, that's what people think, right?
Who won the fist fight? You or Selfmade?
Apparently, I don't know. It was a draw, I think. We're going round 2 tomorrow.
Okay, nice. You can get eBay to stream it and get 1.5 million viewers on Twitch. So.
Yeah, why not? Sounds
okay,
like a good
perfect.
idea.
Sounds good. So like, what do you even do to like? Do you just have to have interviews? And is this something that comes up like when Vitality interviewed you for the spot? Like, did you have to? Was this something that they were worried about? Did they talk to you? Like,
everyone asks this. Come on, this must be a question everyone asks about, right?
Yep.
I mean, I guess they kind of touched on it, right? Like when I talked to Fnatic as well, I don't know, like Yamato was kind of talking to me and he just listened to me and everything, you know, and we got to know each other and everything, and it was pretty chill. He was a pretty chill guy, and I think he knows that I was a pretty chill guy as well. And he asked me about this, like, where is this notion coming from? Like, why are you considered toxic? And I just told him my side of this, you know. And like, there's references, literal references, and people are still worried about this because even if it's not true, the community has the perception that I am toxic, and that kind of like they kind of get stained by it if they pick me up, right? So that's that's like something they have to kind of keep in mind, but I don't think it should be. I don't think anyone thought about it as a big issue, to be honest.
Yeah, makes sense. So
thing is, I actually also think that's another problem that we actually had. When people say that thing, Dom, of like, oh, Reddit narratives held my career back. Dude, being called toxic is probably the #1 Reddit narrative, as you yourself know, that will fuck your career. And it's in the sense that fans, right? I'm going to give the same analogy to the Yasuo example I gave before. The problem is they hear, oh, he was toxic in solo queue. First of all, they don't make the connection like he pointed out there, which is, I always need to know this. I only consider you toxic in the pro sense. If you like that in your fucking team, if you do that to your teammates like Forgiven did, yeah, you're a fucking douchebag. If you just do it in solo queue where it's totally inefficient practice and there are people actively trying to troll you and fucking report you, that's a different circumstance. A lot of people who are really cool people could lose their cool in that scenario and totally like say a thing that in isolation would look really horrible. So I get that, right? The problem again with fans though is, remember, a lot of people who watch the game play the game in solo queue. So every time they hear toxic, they just think of all the horrible experiences they've had, and they've almost got like fucking PTSD from war. So when they hear like he's toxic, they're like, that's like the guy who was telling me kill myself. Like, I don't like toxic people. Like, so they just like they think this is like taking a protest against that, but it's like it's not the same at all. It's not the same. I give a lot more leeway to people who are pros who do it in solo queue, because I just understand it must be the most frustrating way to practice the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's frustrating, but then I think that the term toxicity is like so like poorly defined.
Oh, it's enormous, isn't it? Yeah.
That it could literally mean anything. Like, is it being negative? Is it just like being like GG FF15? Like, please let 15 this game, guys. Like, is that you being toxic in solo queue? Is typing a lot, like somebody criticizing you and you type a lot back at them, is that considered toxic? Like,
do you remember when they said Ignar was toxic because he typed in GGNA? That's all he wrote in that game. We're like sneaky or something like 2 years ago. He just typed GGNA and they were like, this toxic motherfucker. Like,
he thinks he's above us. He thinks Koreans are better than North American people. He hates white people. It's like, what the fuck? Like, bro, like, he just said GGNA. Like, everyone says NA on the NA server. Like, if people mess up, it'll be like, oh shit, like, oh, this is like a bit of like an NA jungle game right here. Like, I mean, everyone says
it's
that
legit
shit.
a meme, like even on Twitch and everywhere, legit just NA, Omega Lul or whatever, you know, it's like always like this. So it's not even something bad, but like when you look at it like results-wise, then NA is obviously worse than where he's from, like from Korea. So like obviously, like he will be mind blown with how dog shit his server is, and just say, well played, NA server.
Yeah, and he might not even be.
Oh,
like,
sorry,
well, I was just gonna say he might not even be talking about like LCS. Like, people immediately went to like, oh, well, he thinks that he's above the LCS, where he just might be talking about like the NA solo queue server. Like, the NA server is a dog shit place to practice. It is not a good place for you to improve. There's a million issues that are stated a million times. We don't need to get into it. So I think that like immediately when somebody is like called toxic, when they're like leaders toxic, to a person it means that he's like, what is he like locking in Nunu and like running it down in every fucking game where he doesn't get like Yasuo, or like is he telling people to kill themselves? Like, what is he doing that's toxic? And it's so poorly defined that it's just like attached to you. And when you're labeled as toxic, it's not like, oh, well, like, we don't know what that means, so we're gonna like, you know, give him a pass and just try to like get more information later. It's like, no, he must be doing all that shit. It's like everything everything that could be considered toxic, that is like everything the leader's doing. So I think that's like probably the most fucked up part, is it just does end up hurting your career.
Look, like the stuff that I write in solo queue, it's like I write it in kind of in a funny way, right? And I obviously insult people, but it's like when they're obviously trolling, right? And I'm there to like win, not to play for fun. Like, I'm playing solo queue to try to actually have like a good time and competitive environment, and I want to see everyone try to win, you know. And I think like when I see streamers, there's so many streamers on EOS right now. Like, I remember a couple of years ago, I was like saying, haha, NA server, complete OTP server. I see Timo, I see all of this shit. Like, this is so funny. Like, I'm so happy that our server is like at least competitive and trying to win, even though like we're toxic, right? Like, people are insulting each other and like completely mind blown whenever someone grieves them. But now, today, I open up the BAU stream. I look at his like. He writes down how many kills and deaths he has, and I look, it's 337, like, and like, how can you not flame this guy? Like, I don't care if like I'm good with him or anything, but if that guy is like playing like this in my solo games, I will obviously flame him. What a shocker that I'm going to flame him. And then all of his viewers will say, holy shit, this guy is so toxic. This guy, he doesn't know how to have fun. Like, why is he like this? Stuff like this, you know? Like, how can you take, like, just fan base that sometimes become completely stupid. Stupid is like a nice way to put it. And it just
Have you considered that those 37 deaths were good deaths?
Yeah, for sure, good deaths. He just
By the way,
1v1. Yeah,
listen, I won't fucking uncork one of my classic rants, but I have always thought that was the worst angle to that. Because as you say there, the angle they'll always go with this, like, why so serious, bro? Can't we just have fun? There's a mode called Normals that was invented for having fun. But you don't play that because you want to be in the ranked game. Ranked games are literally only about getting ranking points. They are, by definition, about trying to win. So in my opinion, if you troll in ranked, I think you should get punished 10 times harder. You should just get absolutely wrecked. Like, if you want to go and have a fun game on stream, just go to Normals, mate. Just have a fun game with a bunch of randoms. Do whatever you want. No one gives a fuck in that scenario. Like, if someone in Normals types, and I do think, like, come on, mate, it's just a Normals game. Just calm down. But no one bloody plays Normals for some stupid reason. They just have to play ranked and then pretend like they're just chilling. It ain't for that.
Look, like, I can understand, like, if I'm not in Bowser's game and I see him int feeding like this, it's
pretty funny,
right? Like,
yeah, it's pretty funny.
It's not really new, of course.
If you're one of these
The
players,
boss is in chat.
if you're one of these players, like, the stuff that you want to do, like, the stuff, like, like, you can't control it, right? And I think it's the same thing with Sneaky and who was it? Ignar. So Ignar writes that, but Sneaky was streaming, so with all of his 10k viewers, he's like, and he just says, what the fuck, this guy is so fucking toxic or something, why is he so mad? And then everyone will obviously like, holy shit, he's so right, like, what the fuck, this guy, why is he so mad? He's like not winning anything in this server and he's saying the server is bad. Well, unfortunately the game is a team game and the server you can't really improve on. You probably get worse if you come to a server like that, so it's really, really unfortunate. Good job, guys. But it's fine though, like, apparently Ignar is the one getting flamed and they don't really look at the bigger picture of the problem.
What about all the context there too? Like, so Ignar, from his perspective, like, he's playing with a full AD team comp outside of his Kennen top, and then his Kennen top says that he needs to build AD in order to play the matchup. Like, he thinks that he is getting trolled. Like, his perception, like, obviously,
literally just come from playing the year before in fucking LCKs where he's playing Korean solo queue.
Yeah, so from his perspective, he doesn't know that, like, Sneaky's still trying to win. Now, Sneaky was still trying to win. He just, like, in his own mind, he like said that, like, oh, well, to play this matchup, I need to build AD to be, because it was like a Scion matchup or something like that. Whereas like AP, I'm not going to be able to push the Scion out of lane. Where like in reality, I'm kind of on the side of like, well, it doesn't matter how your lane goes. You're playing fucking Kennen and you need your team to be able to like team fight in some way. So you probably need to build AP. But it's like all that stuff is just completely lost in the conversation. And it's just like, yeah, no, Ignar was mean to Sneaky. He's a piece of shit. And then like, yeah, Ignar has to carry that around. So, I mean, I think we beat the toxicity.
Quick question, just because while we're in a fun angle, talking shit, and so I saw that, you know how people are now, leader. Everyone thinks they're G2 in LEC because they all know that, you know, doing edgy tweets is the way. So I saw, right, everyone's favorite Russian player, just because guess what, Diamond Prox ain't around anymore, so you win by default, mate. Zanzarah, obviously himself, infamously played many years ago in the LEC. He was briefly on that Origin team a couple of years back, and then he obviously was more recently on Astralis now, right? Since everyone's been loving his style, he had a little banter tweet, and I want to get like leader's take on this. So the tweet goes like this. He tweeted it today. He said, are we going to see mid-champ from Vitality this split who has more than 200 auto range?
I mean, it's fine. Like, yeah, at this point, it's just funny. I don't really know the guy personally, right? So I can't really say. Maybe he's like joking around, or maybe he's serious. I really hope he's not serious because, yeah, he's probably going to go 10th place again this year. But
he got 9th last split, actually, asshole. Okay, he got 9th.
Oh,
okay.
My bad, but
true.
But okay, at least as long as I make it above him with my below 200 rage champions, then he can't really like say anything, right? Then he needs to like use his arms better than me, then, or something like this. Use his limbs properly. I can just flame him back, but then again, then again, it's like, whatever. This meme is so overused. It's so troll. This shit, like, it's so useless. It's like, well, what do I even reply to this? What do I say? Haha, I'm playing Lucian Rise. Haha. What What do I say to
well,
this?
I mean, it still triggers you, so you know it's worth it. You know, he got.
Also, here's the thing.
No, it really doesn't. It's like really whatever. Like actually really whatever.
Even though I know like the angle, like, yeah, you just listen. All he's trying to do now is it's a vaguely funny joke, and he's trying to make it because it's like topical, etc. But it's like the problem with that Zanzarah is they are getting a new player in your role, mate. You ever heard of Jungle? Because here's the thing: there's a Polish guy coming, mate. By the way, Poles don't tend to like Russians very much. He's gonna eat your fucking lunch, Tavarich. So I'd maybe go and have a look into that one. Why not call out the guy in your role? Just say you'll out jungle him. No problem, right? No biggie there. You've already got a Astralis level teammate, so I probably wouldn't be talking shit myself, but that's just me, mate, you know.
No, I mean, one thing you got to learn is you can't really banter with Selfmade. Like, if you like banter with Selfmade, he's just gonna come for your fucking
He
life.
just flames you, yeah.
And it'll still be like on the guise of like, oh, well, you started it and it's banter, but
Yeah,
then like
true.
you're just sitting there feeling like completely wrecked. You're like, holy shit, like this is fucked up. So
Oh, no, one thing I can relate to about Selfmade is he has the same quality that I do, which is if you piss us off, we'll just never forget it. We'll just still be going on that shit 6 months later, so don't worry about that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm like that too. I just haven't.
Selfmade is really direct, yeah. Like the stuff that he wrote in the scrim blocks that we played, like it was really mind blowing to me as well. Like I don't even want to say it. Like if he comes on the show, you can just ask him. He will probably say it himself. But the stuff that he wrote that was completely crazy. Like, yeah, I was mind blown.
To the enemy team, like just in scrims, the banter.
In the scrims, literally. Like it didn't even feel like banter. It was legit just. It was a complete knockout. Complete knockout.
Jesus
This
Christ.
way, people have already seen publicly he's made some like edgy jokes himself. Like he's made the comments like, "Oh, this guy," you know. I can't remember who it was about. I think it was something about, wasn't it one about like Gilius or something? There was some players last split where he did it before like, it all went to shit. So put it this way, think about it. If he says that publicly, what do you think he fucking says in the scrim when no one's recording? Whatever he wants, mate. That's the answer. Whatever he wants.
Yep.
Gilius is not even extreme. I think Gilius is like actually like.
He's tame.
He's chilling, I think. Like his banter is actually like he doesn't cross the line or anything. But Selfmade, he's all over. He's completely over the line. He can't even see the line. That's how.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's two different things. Like Gilius's banter is more like I'm the best, and then like Selfmade's banter is more like you are shit. Like this is a difference in like
basically
the tone of it. You know, like just saying you're the best is, I guess, it comes off a lot more lighthearted. But yeah, I mean, like I think that just. To bring it back to like the actual like team discussion, is this something that like, I mean, it's obviously a huge worry about the community. How's this team gonna get along? Like leaders L9, Selfmade's L9, like they're gonna actually have issues. Like, is this something that like there is like some discussion about in the team, or is it like in your mind never gonna happen? There's never gonna be a problem between like the teammates.
Look, I would say Selfmade's personality is quite direct. If you're griefing, he will tell you that you're griefing and you should do this and this and this, and it just all depends on how you take it. Honestly, like I think as long as you're not that sensitive and you take it in a positive way, he won't be mad at you, and nobody will be mad at each other. Like if you're trying, like he's not toxic. He's just direct, you know. That's all. Like he's just a direct teammate. And he's right as well. Like whenever he thinks something is wrong, he will tell you this is wrong, and he's most likely right about it as well. And I don't think Selfmade is. Like, there won't be any fist fights, basically, right? Like we're legit. Like me and him are both 22 this year. Like even though we're like really annoyed at people in solo queue, and they're just legit griefing.
Are you saying that like that's old? Like 22 is old?
No, I'm just saying
means they're not kids. It's the other way around.
We're not kids, basically. We're legit not kids, you know. We're not going to sit there like, holy shit, you griefed me this year. Like, I don't want to play with you or something like this, you know. Like, this something like this.
You're not reckless. Exactly. Yeah,
yes,
I agree.
people here, if people here want to win, I think all of my teammates really, really want to win. And as long as that's how everyone feels, nobody will be mad at each other, you know. Problems occur. I don't think we will be a team without problems, but I don't think it's going to be as severe as people make it out to be, because legit every single solo queue player of the competitive, there are quite a lot of toxic people that are super nice to each other, but people just don't see this, you know. That's all. People don't see this. Like I can give you examples, but it's no point in doing that. But people just don't see it. For some reason people thought I was in L9 or something, just because I was friends with some people there, and I was a little bit direct when I like said, but I was not like racist or anything like this, right? Like I was just direct and told them they are shit, they are limbless, shit like this before. Which is kind of funny. not literally, right?
Yeah, of course.
I'm not going to tell Selfmade after he trolls me one time, like saying, gives my mid lane, you're so fucking limbless, you know? I'm not just gonna say this to him. Like, I'm just gonna like make a joke about it and laugh it off, and he will make a joke about it and laugh it off as well. And then we'll just focus, because we're all professionals here, right? We're legit all professionals here. So there won't be any fist fights, I can guarantee you that. That is a little bit of an over-exaggeration, and we are all really getting along, you know? It just, at this point, just, it's a meme. Literally, just a meme.
I'm going to take on this topic because even though by the way, from some of the stories I have heard some dodgy stuff about Selfmade, but I will say this: there is an angle. I think I've brought it up on this show before, Dom, but I'll just briefly do it again. Basically, like one of the problems I have is it's a bit like, if anyone knows this concept from American sports, it's a really famous concept. The concept goes like this: it's the one who retaliates who always gets caught by the referee, because the idea is when the player stops and you fouled someone or something like that, right? If he then like punches you back, well, the ref's looking now because like everyone's waiting, but they might not have seen the guy initially in like basketball. Maybe he like gently edged, elbowed you in the ribs or something. So, you know, it was covered. No one could really see it except you. If you then push him, the ref's just going to give you, like, you know, send you out the game, give a foul. And so what happens there is, listen, what you did is wrong. But the question is, what established that pattern, though? So one problem I have is there are people who, certainly, if you are an outsider and you didn't know the context, it would look like they were really toxic. But I have a comment people aren't going to want to hear, but it's the truth that you need to hear. Everyone in a team isn't equal and doesn't carry equal respect and an equal hierarchy. And that not only is that a fact, but if it is denied, if someone denies that in the team environment, you will ruin the whole team concept. Because what it means is this: let's say I had a teammate, right, who is the most dedicated player ever. He grinds all day long. He's searching for like new ways to play the game, watching pro views. His whole life, he's just driven to be the best. And then say I'm his teammate, and I'm pretty decent at the game, and I do the practice I'm supposed to. I do my scrims, I do a couple of games of solo queue, right? If I then kept saying to that guy, like, why are you so serious? Like, what's the big deal? Look, it's still just a scrim, mate. It's like, I'm actually being a toxic asshole there. Like, I'm not respecting the fact that this person's like on another level than me in terms of dedication, or, you know what, maybe in the game, he's like the carry player who has all the responsibility. Like, if he loses this game, people don't go, Thorin sucks. They go, he sucks, because he's the star player of the team. People know he got his pick. So the level of pressure on that guy is totally different. Again, the expectations are totally different. So in my opinion, yeah, I understand we all wish we live in a utopia where it's like a little kids at school, like now, everyone's trying their hardest in the game. We all have to respect each other. Yeah, on some level, we all have to respect each other, but respect is earned. So in my opinion, like, there should always be team dynamics where certain players will have more voice. Certain players, by the way, will get to be a bit more of a dick to people. I'm sorry, that's just the way it's going to be in the game. Meanwhile, some players who aren't very good, don't work very hard, and maybe aren't a key piece in the team, they won't be treated like the most valuable person, and they will never get equal treatment to everyone else. Like, as many stories as I've told about Reckless over the years, I couldn't understand why they can exist, because he's fucking reckless. If he was Hjarnan, he wouldn't get away with those stories. So the point is, there's times in certain teammates who should have had to put up with that shit because they were in a position to play with a player as good as Reckless. So I also think that angle is like really misunderstood, because it's easy to see the guy who has the blow up or writes the mean thing and go, he's toxic. But I always ask the question of like, what was the team environment? If we don't know, it's hard to judge.
I just don't even know how Hjarnan caught a stray in the fucking leader interview, man.
Like, it's another Swedish AD carry or whatever. I was just, trying to make connections there,
Jesus Christ. So I want to know a little bit about like how this roster was formed. I know that there was like tryouts from Vitality. Like, how much did you know of the roster when you decided that you were going to sign? Because I heard that like you and Selfmade signed very close together.
We basically knew everyone, honestly. Like basically, we kind of knew the bot was going to stay. I was just we didn't know. I didn't know who really the top laner was until like the last few days, right? And like I was confident in my bot lane. I would say my top laner was a question mark, but I heard only good stuff about him from everyone, like different coaches and everything.
Didn't
and
you
then
play against him in Germany?
I did, and I laned against him as well, and he got dove 1v1 level 2. It's fine. It happens.
Okay. So you're going on your top laner already, okay.
Yeah, of course.
This is just the respect hierarchy that Thorin was talking about. Like now LIDER just has asserted his dominance on his top laner, and his top laner knows that he has to be like the role player on the team. Perfect, okay.
But
continue.
This is like basically what happened. Like me and Selfmade joined, and we kind of knew how the roster was going to be. It was like that was all, like it was just a buyout and everything that was just taking some time.
Yeah. Is it kind of like surreal to you? Because I mean, you were in so many fuck situations and felt like you were just like never gonna get a fair shot for a while, right? Like, I mean, especially this last off season between season 10 and season 11, and like, I mean, most people assume that you were gonna find a team somewhere, and then when you announce you're going to regional league, I assume at some point it gets to the point where you're like, okay, am I ever gonna actually get a shot? Like, does it feel surreal that you're not only getting a shot, but you're getting a shot with like such a promising lineup?
I mean, in all honesty, whenever I got denied my shots, right, in season 10 and like at the start of season 11, like I was like, okay, like it's whatever, you know, just a little bit sad, but maybe something, this is for the greater good, you know, maybe something better will happen later. And when I look back at it, like, and now this is for sure the best offer I have ever gotten, right, with the teammates and organization and everything. Like, this is exactly what I wanted, basically. A jungler that I wanted to play with, and a bot lane that I'm confident in, and a rookie that is apparently promising. So it's like, this is exactly what I wanted, and I like everyone from my team. I appreciate it, you know. Like, I'm happy. Like, this SK offer that I got denied, didn't really care much about it. This XL offer that I got denied, it's whatever. When I look back at it, this Fnatic offer as well, it could have been nice. Like, when you look at it from brand perspective and everything, like, but when I could compare all the offers, this is the one that I would want by a long shot.
By the way, in case people don't know, there's also like another side detail which makes this not as mad as the move sound smart side, because obviously everyone's worried about like, what about LIDER and Selfmade and all. If people don't know, they also brought on as like the strategic coach of this team a guy from Romania called Realistic, right? He was Selfmade's coach way back in season 9 on SK, and he was LIDER's coach in Mousebots recently. So he actually knows both of these players, and now he's joining Vitality as well. So in a sense, you've already got like some people you know within the org, and obviously they know the history of these two players. They're not going in blind, just hoping it's not like Reddit says, you know.
Absolutely. What are your perceptions on some of like the other teams that are being like, you know, having roster changes? I mean, I think Schalke is a big mystery to people. Obviously, Abadage leaving to 100 Thieves means that NuclearInt is coming in, and then I think the move that happened recently that at least from the outside no one was really expecting was Correa being moved up, and then Gilius being kicked. I feel like that's really surprising considering how Gilius was. Like, do you have any opinions on like how you think Schalke is going to place this season?
I think he's really, really underappreciated in the scene. I feel like I was in the same situation he's always been in, like, and kind of Upset as well. I think Upset has been in the similar situation as well. I think he's always been fucking good, like really fucking good, but he's been in like kind of unlucky teams, right? And Kira is the same.
Fnatic,
he didn't even get the shot, basically. Yeah. And the one split, he actually got the shot. He was slumping. He was legit the worst performance he's ever been in, like in his whole life, you know, competitive wise. And he knows it himself. And he was like, I felt really, really bad for him. And I'm really, really happy for him that he actually got the shot. Like, everything that he brings to the team, it's so much. This guy is super professional, easy to work with, will always listen to criticism, untiltable, I don't know what he does, could probably meditate on a mountain every day or something, but crazy mental, and he knows so much about the game. Like, it's really crazy. If this guy decides to retire and become a coach, get him. Like, honestly, just get him. Like, whoever. He will teach you so much shit, and he is a player that will work well with the rookies as well, I think. So it's like nice that they got the rookie mid as well, which is Nuclear, right? But he is Kire for sure better than Gilius, and Abidage for sure bigger than Nuclear. But I think the gap between Nuclear and Abidage, the downgrade is much bigger than the upgrade of Gilius and Kire, I would say, because top laner is already established, like it's really good. And bot lane are, I would say, really established as well and are really good. So it's like he can only work with the mid laner, you know. But I think their mid laner was probably their best player. Like, he was always clutch. He was always clutch, you know. When they needed him to be clutch, he was always clutch.
What do you think about like? I mean, obviously you said that NuclearInt seems like is his name just Nuclear now? Like, what do I have to keep on calling him NuclearInt or whatever, man? We'll call him NuclearInt because that's what I saw him. Like,
by the way, I'm pretty sure that's going to come back to haunt him. But I'm just saying. You did put int on your fucking name, so you know, just watch out.
He renamed to Nuke now. To Nuke.
Oh, Nuke. Oh, okay.
Yeah, or Nook, not Nuke, Nook.
I mean, the thing about that is like there's already the player Nukes that's like support. So I feel like now it's
so
just
Nukes a lot.
Yeah. So I feel like now it's a little bit confusing. But can you tell us anything about him? Like, did you expect him to get the spot moved up? Do you think it's just like Schalke saving money because obviously he was the person that was on their academy team? Like, how did this guy get moved up?
Was he in the ERLs actually someone that was obvious they were going to be an LEC NuclearInt?
He is for sure someone that has talent, but I think he's going to LEC too soon. But luckily, he's only with veterans, right? So it all depends on him, how hard he works and how well he will do. But right now, he's like obviously on the lower end of the mid laners in LEC. I was going to say something, but I completely forgot. Like what?
It's fine. We can come back to it.
Yeah, just continue. But I forgot. But basically, too early for him. Oh yeah. I remember now. I think the choice why they just took NuclearInt was legit because they probably are going to go out of the franchising, like
out of money.
What I assume.
In case they sell the team or something, right?
Yeah. So that's what I think. So that would be their best choice. Just the choice where they save the most money. You know, they just put a NuclearInt in because he's a prospect and he has a bright future for sure, depending on him. And it's like a good choice if you want to save money and kind of develop someone. But if you want to win, I think not the best choice, to be honest. Because I think this team would actually be good. Their top is really fucking good, I think. Their bot lane is really solid. They're consistent. And I played with Neon, right? I think he improved a lot. He's just he's good as well. And obviously Limit, I have a high opinion of him as well. And it's just really good bot and top. And if they had I think I would do better in that team. You know, I think with me that team would be fucking good. Like honestly, I'm just gonna straight up say I play with 2 ex-teammates and I like my support and my top is good as well. So it's like I would fit in really well and really fast. I think that's what would happen. But this team, I'm really fucking happy with this. This is like the best possible option. But second option would be Schalke.
Even though you were just saying that, obviously, you know, to just explain like the players stuff. It did sound like the maddest BM ever. Like, tell you what, they're not as good because they didn't get me really. Like, I would have been fucking sick of this team. Not that I joined this team. I'm invited now, so fuck them. So yeah.
Jesus, relax.
Right?
You're like, yeah,
just turn it around. Yeah, just turn it around.
Jesus Christ, you're like, yeah, I'd kick that motherfucker's teeth in. It's like, okay, dude, Jesus, like he's an 18-year-old kid that hasn't played one game of LEC and you're just egoing on him. Like, what the hell, man? Like, Jesus. Is there anyone from the German league that you think is actually like a really good mid laner that you played against, or did you think that like the whole league was pretty whatever?
I don't think there were any really good mid laners in whole ERL, honestly, except Tukui. Like that was the only guy that could actually be good in LEC as well. Okay. Honestly, just from gameplay wise, he has what it takes. Everyone else is whatever, I think.
Yeah. That's one thing I also want to like throw out there as well. Like, if you notice, the last year especially, I've been really trying to put the fucking brakes on like bringing in rookies from the RL because first of all, like I've just heard from too many teams that they do it to save money. Basically, they don't want to pay whatever Featherman wants or something. You know, players that like have an established history. But the other issue is this. Listen, it is true that if you go back in time now, yeah, there was an amazing amount of talent, especially 2 or 3 years ago in the ERLs. Like there were players who all they needed was a chance in the right team, and they've become some of the all LEC level players. It's some really top players who are in the MVP candidate every year. The problem is this: there isn't an unlimited supply, and I know a lot of people in Europe pretend there is. Like, in my opinion, you can't just get another 10 fucking players out of like, oh look, every mid laner who is good is amazing. Like, they can't all be amazing guys. We haven't got an unlimited talent pool. That's like China you're thinking of. Like what do you think on this, leader? Because people want it to be that every year there's going to be a Larson and a Caps and a pick whoever humanoid. They want it to be that every year there's going to be like a new crop of them. Yeah,
all these guys.
I think skill level and everything is like the skill gap between players right now, like it's getting like less and less every year, I would say, right? Like everyone is kind of catching up to the people that were really, really far ahead, which was Caps and Perks, right? People are kind of catching up. I think what defines a player now is honestly creativity. Like you need to be really, really creative, I think, in the game to win games, because everyone, like there's basically a rule book for everyone right now. People have kind of figured out the game, right? And people can like learn this and be stable, right? Everyone can be average and stable and like do fine, go even in CS about everyone, go ahead in CS in matchups that you have to go ahead in. But the really good players right now are the players that can play the bad matchups and not fall behind or even get ahead. Players that find new ways, like their own ways to win the game, and players like those. That's what I think, at least. And like you don't need the Larsen or a Caps or a Humanoid every year. Like it's really easy to kind of see something like that in a player if you just watch solo queue, you know, like their tendencies and everything, and the way they communicate. If their ideas are their ideas, you just talk to the player and like ask them questions and figure out how they think. Then you can kind of already see that if this player is going to be great or not.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Dom, I want to get your thoughts on something, because one of the angles on this show is obviously we do spend a lot of time, especially if it's me, criticizing people that I think are like too passive, like reckless, etc., over their careers, etc. But like one of the reasons why I always explain is I always put my biases on Front Street. Like I just don't like players generally who let themselves get choked out in the game, because I consider it the most like depressing way to lose the game. Like I'll give you an example. I would way rather, I know it sounds like a mad analogy, but if I was an MMA fighter, I would literally rather get knocked out than lose like a fucking decision where I just like was losing the whole fight and I was never in control and the other guys just gradually out putting me. But at the end of the fight, right, the reason why that fight sucks to lose is I still feel like I could have done some things differently though. Like I could have taken some chances, I could have gone hard, like if I knew I was losing I could have gone super hard the last round, but instead I just let myself lose, right? One of the things actually that also made me actually turn around a lot on the idea that like I think leaders should even have been in potentially a better team than this was what he said earlier, which is actually a very key point, is he absolutely, no joke, this is what he said in my interview, like he basically said, oh no, it was what he said on the LEC actually when he first came in. He said he will literally int the game if the game is out of control as a way to try and win the game. Now that sounds like an obvious thing to a fan, but dude, there are so many pro players who fucking don't do that. There are so many pro players, even in LEC, where I can just see the cogs turning in their brain when the game is lost, and they're just starting to think like, it's better if I get out of this game as not the one who looks the worst, though.
Yep.
There's fucking top pros think that. So I actually love their mentality that people are like, I'm willing to look bad as long as I try to win the game.
Yep.
Winning the game is the ultimate thing, let's be real.
I think that it's just like one game is just one game, right? And a loss is just a loss. There's no like losing. It's not like if you lose hard, you get 2 losses on the fucking scoreboard.
Oh, no, exactly.
Like, so I think that's the biggest issue that I have with that approach is like, there is a time where like your best decision is to actually like try to fight and outplay them. And if you outplay them, you win. And if you lose, you lose. And we see top teams do this all the time. Like if you listen to RNG's mic checks from MSI finals, there's games where they're like in unwinnable spots and they're like, can we try to outplay? Can we try to turn and outplay or something here? Like this is probably the best chance we're going to get. And they all turn, they try to outplay, they get fucking aced, Ghost gets a pentakill, and they're like, all right, whatever, like we'll just go for like the next game, you know? I feel like that mentality is so much better because like at least you're giving yourself a fucking chance to win. I feel like if you're the ultra passive, if you have the ultra passive approach, there's going to be games where you would have had a chance to win that you're just like afraid to.
Dude,
but you
even
look
the
better.
Koreans. That's even the Koreans' #1 weakness. They have games where they just let themselves lose, even when they're some of the best teams in the world. Like I used to say to Monty back in the day, this is where people don't get it. Like, I'm not a fucking stan. I don't just, because I like people, I don't say everything they say is correct. I've told Monty so many times, like, dude, right now Koreans are the best, but can we acknowledge they have a massive flaw in how they think about the game? Because they're willing to just, like, politely let themselves lose a game because they're like, well, we'll wait till there's a 60-40 fight. How's there ever going to be a 60-40 fight if you're behind Dragons, bad team comp, all the lanes are... You're never going to get the 60-40. In that scenario, you might have to literally force a, like, 30-70 or a 20-80 and just hope you pull out a miracle. That might be your only chance to win the game.
Yep. I mean, literally, this is part of my biases, too, towards the game, and I think that, like, it's good to acknowledge them, and that's part of the reason why I just like LPL so much more than LCK is I just feel like LPL, like, I think that the reason why they're starting to, like, take the reins and starting to get so much of a lead is that they are so willing to like take these fights and have this approach of like outplaying people that eventually it just gets to the point where it's like second nature. It's like, oh well, like yeah, we're just gonna take this fight, and then you stop psyching yourself out with the fight and you realize like all the advantages that come from potentially taking a bad fight but having like the agency to do it on your own terms, right? Like if you're the ones that are deciding, hey, we're gonna turn here, like this is like an opportunity to outplay, the fact that you've already decided that and you're going to then start that turn or you're going to take that fight gives you an inherent advantage. Even if the fight is 60-40, the fact that you're acting first gives you the natural advantage. I think that that's something that LPL players really understand that other people don't. I mean, I'm telling you that RNG mic check, there's a lot of stuff you can really just gain by like their mentality, even like just the way they talk to each other before the game. That's the type of stuff that I really like. Like before the game, they're not thinking about like, oh, what happens if we lose to Damwon? They're like, yeah, like we load into the game, just try your best. Whatever happens, happens. Like we just play the best we fucking can. And then if we lose, we just lose. Like it's a much better approach to actually being a champion than just being like, well, shit, like we looked better than them this tournament, so we're supposed to win. So like, hopefully like they don't play that well and we can just like beat them and default like get a championship or something like that. It's like you go out, you fight, you try the best you can, and whatever the result is just a byproduct of like what your skill level is. I think it's much more healthy. So just to finish the Schalke topic, the main question for this team is playoffs. What do you think, Leader? Is Schalke going to make playoffs, or do you think that they're
Yeah, I think they will for sure make playoffs.
I mean, so here's where it gets tough, right? Like if you look at playoffs, right? You have Rogue, Mad Lions, G2, Fnatic, and then like assuming you guys are a playoff team, if Schalke makes playoffs, that means that one of the other teams can't make playoffs. So like, do you think that?
Yeah, and it's Astralis, Excel,
SK.
Misfits, SK. Yeah. Schalke is making playoffs, I think.
100%. Damn.
It all depends on their mid. Like if their mid like actually like fits in and Kirei and the coaching stuff like helps out the mid, I think they will for sure be a playoffs team. I think they're just better than all the other teams. Like,
and where
the real question? Because the problem with that is like Andy would say that. Like, there's the real question, Leader. Does Vitality finish above Fnatic? That's what people want to know.
Hopefully we can. I'm confident. Like the past scrims, like I think we're actually pretty good. You know, like it's a bit hard to say because we're playing like bottom teams. Like we're scrimming bottom teams.
Like
so
Fnatic or something.
I mean, we did scrim against Fnatic.
No, just kidding.
but we scrimmed like SK and Misfits and excellent stuff, right? Like it's like so hard to say because it was just stomps. Like the games were just stomps, literally. So it's like really hard to say. And we like even our academy team is like doing better against us than them. So it's like it's like I'm a little bit like clueless, like what the fuck is going on? Like, are we just too good, or are the other teams like just playing bad because of their first day of scrims, you know? But then again, it's the other people's first day of scrims and they already play the split together, so like I don't know what's going on. Maybe they need to like warm up or something, you know? So but it just stomps left and right.
I'm looking forward to seeing Selfmade against Whipple, personally. That's a fucking jungle matchup and a half right there, because first of all, they already had different opinions how the roles played anyway, so could be a spicy one. Yeah, could be fun.
I mean, that was a huge thing that was announced today. Obviously, was that I mean everyone knew it, but Bobo going to jungle. Like, how do you think that this is actually going to go for him? Like, if you had to predict, because like my personal take is I think he's actually going to be a good jungler. But do you think that like he's going to have some struggles adapting to the role? Do you think his playstyle fits in naturally with what you think a jungler should be?
I think Bwipo's game sense, in all honesty, is like it's not bad. Like it's good, you know. So, and I think jungle is legit all about game sense, really. Like, and pathing, right? Pathing, obviously. And his game sense is good, but I think what I would like predict his weakness to be is if games are going slow, that he will fall behind, like kind of something like that. That's what I would like. He would fall too far behind if the games are going too slow. That's what I think. But I think in chaotic games, he would be good.
Yeah.
Or like fine, at least.
I think the one thing that he's gonna just have to adapt to, I think the biggest like hurdle for me to see him overcome is like understanding like how much agency you actually have, because when you're playing top lane and you make a map play, like he was famous for like always TPing bot and doing these types of things, like there's a lot less answers to you like roaming or like TPing than, you know, there is the jungle where the enemy jungle is literally just doing exactly what you're doing. So like when the other person has as much agency as you do to like affect the map, is he going to be match more? Is he going to be like the type of guy that's like walking into counter ganks all the time? Like that's the interesting thing. And then the other thing that I want to see is just champ pool, because I mean he's a Rengar player from top lane. Is he gonna start busting out some of these like picks? Because when we had him on the Crackdown, the now obviously deleted episode, one of the things that he said about role swapping is he was more than willing to, for example, when he said mid, if he role swap mid, he would be more than willing to just play champions that he was comfortable on and not take the best matchups because he just believes in his degree of proficiency, right? So like if
Fancy that, eh, Dom?
Yeah, I know. That's something that I thought Leader might be able to relate to a little bit. So, you know, like if he plays Rengar into like a not great matchup, but he's still playing a champion that he thinks he's really good on, is that going to be like worth it? Do you think we'll see that, or do you think that he's just going to end up being like a Rumble Udyr Morgana slave?
I think he will be able to play like the champions that are in the meta, like that are from top lane. Like champions are kind of similar in kit. I think even Udyr is kind of similar to Volibear and stuff, right? In the bruisers kind of in kit.
Mhm.
But what I found funny about what he just said was that I remember in one of the shows he said that he would just pick a champion and not care about falling down 20 CS or something.
Yep.
You know,
He
as
said
long
Silas
as
versus Orianna. Yep.
Yeah, because he said he would play the map better, or like he would play the map, like he will just know about the game better, or something like this. I don't know exactly. I don't want to put words into his mouth.
Something like that.
No. What he said was that like if he's comfortable on the champion, that he would just trust himself to pilot his champion better later, even if he had the 20 CS lead. So he was more comfortable being Silas with a 20 CS deficit.
He played top lane, if you think about it, to be fair. That is kind of what
then
his
like
mentality
play
was.
a zero
Okay.
even. Yeah.
But then again, before he said this, what he said, like the topic was about me, right? That that the champions I play, like I can't do anything level 1 or level 2. Like I have to wait against level 6 and the game is over or something like this. But then he says that he would do the same thing, which is a little bit hypocritical to me, if that's the reasoning why he wouldn't pick me up. If I would say I'm basically a better version of him in mid lane that doesn't fall behind 20 CS down even in bad matchups. So that's what I found a little bit weird, if I remember it correctly, right? But this is how I understood it, at least. So that was a little bit weird for me to listen to. But I think his other reasoning was really fair, though. That I got banned 2 games, right? Even though I had a warning. So that is a really, really fair reasoning. And if he doesn't want to play with me, because it's like a risk that someone has to take of me getting banned again, right? Because of solo queue.
Yeah, that was the reason he said. Yeah, true. He just said something like, if you had to miss even one game, if you got fined or something, you know. It was actually, at the time, it was a very good point, because obviously it was after Fnatic and had that.
Holy shit.
It was when Fnatic had that split where they only made it in because of the Schalke miracle run. So in his mind, that actually just logically makes sense. If you're worried that someone might get like solo queue banned and they get 2 games they have to skip, that might cost you playoffs. So like I got that angle. Like he wasn't being as harsh as people thought on that one.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I think it's fair enough. But then again, I don't think that's big enough of a reason to not pick up a player and where you would rather role swap yourself. That's my take on it. But then again, it's
You've also never actually been banned, have you?
he got
me.
2 game ban.
Yeah.
I got banned for 2 games, and I got banned.
How long ago
because
was this?
This was in like first quarter, like the first quarter of 2020. Yeah, that's when I got banned for 2 games because I flamed a person like I always flamed, which I didn't get banned, and I was chilling, you know, another day. Someone is griefing me, intentionally griefing me, and the guy that is intentionally griefing me puts it on his Twitter, obviously, and because he puts it on his Twitter and all of his like fans are like Twitter atting and everything, which is Adam, right? Like the new Fnatic top laner, like. And then he posted, which is fair, right? Like, okay, I probably did deserve to get 2 days banned if people are that sensitive in 2020. But what I found funny was that he was the guy out of everyone that actually posted this, and then I read all the replies in his tweet, and
it
he's
was
getting
everyone was flaming. Well, I think the thing that was so strange.
Like, I was mind blown about this. Literally, all the French casters, French players, like everyone was flaming him, saying like, "You're the last guy that should say this." Like, and then from this, people started
He changed.
rivalry. No. People started a rivalry between me and him. Completely out of nowhere, and then today, like this year, the rivalry started. Like, I want to comment on this really fast because this rivalry is really, really one-sided. I didn't even think about this rivalry at all. Like, the only similarity me and him have is our name, our first name, literally. And it's whatever, right? Like I don't have any harsh feelings, or like I don't hate him or anything. Like it's just funny that he's like doing it himself. Like he was the one posting it, you know. Like I don't really care about that stuff. I won't sit there and hold grudges against someone that does that, you know. And
It's funny that he's now going to be Bwipo's top laner, though, in light of what Bwipo said about you.
I mean,
so.
I think
of course.
I mean, the funniest thing is, like, as somebody, because I went in 2019 and I played EUS solo queue, and like the mentality around Adam was like, I mean, I'm not gonna say everyone hated him, but like most people hated this guy. Like,
no, everyone hated him. Everyone hated him except his fans. Literally, except his fans, everyone hated him. It's just a fact. Because on top of being toxic, he was shit.
Yeah.
Straight up shit at the game, which is a fact.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so
Adam 15 ants, if you saw that name, you would want to open because he would just int once and then he would keep running it down. So, so yeah.
Yeah, so everyone hated him like in 2019, and now he's getting picked up on Fnatic, and it seems like overall the community is super hyped on him. He's actually the person that I think is going to do pretty poorly from all the pickups.
There's no way he can live up to the expectations. Like, here's the dude. The sickest thing about that move, in my opinion, is he doesn't have a chance. Because first of all, as far as I could tell from the little bit I watched New Masters, he isn't a fucking sick top laner. But even worse, he's replacing Bwipo, and I've said this before. It'll only be when Bwipo and fucking Hylissang leave Fnatic that those fans realize what they actually did. Like, y'all are idiots if you think they're the worst players on those teams. Those are actually two of the players who've tried to make those fucking Fnatic teams work. Who've actually tried to sacrifice to help the massive fucking egos in those teams operate in the game, who had to have everything their way, like little princesses. So, like, to me, I don't think this guy has a chance, because Bwipo was way better than people made out. I know he had his bad games, and then this guy is not even some super stud who like has to be an LEC. So I think he's in a really, really tough spot right now, mate. He's in a fucking bad spot.
Yeah, I think it's weird. I mean, there are like a decent amount of like top laners, but I feel like top laner, like the top lane position is pretty top heavy in general, no pun intended, obviously. When you look at the players, like you have like the IWDominate, like the IWDominate Wonder like tier. Obviously Wonder I think is the best, but you have that tier. But then when you have like the bottom tier top laners like White Knight, and then I guess like we'll have to see how good SLT is. Like he's a question mark. When you like Genax is obviously pretty good, but like you have like some ones that are, I guess, easier than others. So I wonder how he's gonna fit into it. But I'd be surprised if he's like top 6. I mean, I feel like players like BB will completely shit on him. From watching, like, I've watched all of like BB's career. If I see Broken Blade versus Adam, I don't think Adam has a chance in that lane. But you know, well,
no,
I
agree. But it all depends on if Broken Blade will choke or if Adam is going to overperform as well. Obviously, right? Like playing on stage is really, really different compared to Scrim. So if Broken Blade plays good, I think Broken Blade will fist him.
Yeah.
Dude, here's the person I feel sorry for that no one's giving any fucking attention to whatsoever. Dude, imagine, I don't know what you did in a past life, Upset. The jokes write themselves, mate. But fucking hell, God hates you. What's wrong with your career, mate? Dude, you finally got into Fnatic. You're like, finally, I get to be in Reckless's team. It's like, yeah, but you know, it's not, none of the good players are really there anymore, though. Like, sort of Selfmade, maybe. Like, okay, fuck it. I hope it works out. After one split, good news, Upset. We're moving Bwipo to jungle. We've recruited a fucking nobody for top lane, who literally is named after the first human ever in the Bible. And then Niski's still in mid. Whatever. I just said that because Niski's in the chat. Whatever. Fuck you. Listen, all I'm saying is, where's the carries, motherfucker? Where are the carries? Like, Upset just has a cursed life, mate. He's just not allowed to have a win in League of Legends, apparently. He's going to be the last motherfucker on the way out of Fnatic just turning the lights out.
Jesus Christ.
When that neon sign... At this point, it's only got, like, you know, 2 letters out of the Fnatic, and you know, all the other ones went off. And Sam Matthews just say, it's fine. Yeah, well, our fans can crowd from the new lights. So.
Well, I mean, when you listen to the owner talk, like, if you read between the lines, you know exactly why they ended up replacing Selfmade. Like, he's like, what did he tweet? He tweeted something about how, oh, well, like, if you were me, you'd have to make a tough decision because there's only... half a split left, or like half a year left on these guys' contracts, which clearly means to me that it's like, so you're actually going to sacrifice the quality of your team now so that at the end of the year, you're going to have players that are signed to you. And if anyone wants to buy the players, they're going to cost fucking money, because if you keep Selfmade, he'll probably leave at the end of the year and you won't be able to like make a buyout off
get nothing, which will be the same thing that's happened every other time. So yeah, what you basically said there, by the way, Dom, is a mad self-own. He's just admitted.
I hate that.
He's just admitted, I'm not good enough to even re-sign the guy, because I couldn't sign any of those other fuckers, Caps, Reckless, none of them. And then even worse, I just want the money now, because I'd rather than get nothing in 6 months, why don't I get some money now? Like, dude, that's a massive massive self-forward if you're Fnatic. Like, dude, you're supposed to be one of the biggest orgs in the world. Fucking act like it.
I mean, I'm just surprised
I think what did he write? He said that we are here to win or something, right? Like to win it all or something. This is what he tweeted under his tweet, which I find really really funny because they had one unsuccessful split, last one, and now they're actually like have time together, and everyone apparently was willing to like play with each other as well, you know, and like they were fine with it, and then. Suddenly they put in an autofill jungler and get a new top laner that only played one split in ERL and completely randomly, and they say they want to win it all, which is like really really weird to me when they probably are not even going to make Worlds this year, as unfortunate as it is.
Oh, I don't think there's really a chance of them making Worlds. Like, I mean, Rogue Mad Lions G2, and then it's like you guys and Fnatic fighting to potentially like dethrone one of those three. But I feel like it's really hard
I'll tell you right now, I'm not joking. If Fnatic makes Worlds, even not knowing what he's done, Yamato kind of must be one of the best coaches in the entire world. That's not even a joke. He'd have to be. Look at this fucking team.
Yeah.
This is a train wreck of a team.
Yeah, I mean, either that or the players just have to massively maybe Blippo just proves that
someone has to be the MVP or something. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, like maybe Blippo just proves that all junglers are actually just brainless and completely delusional, and he just starts playing jungle and he just becomes the best.
All I'm gonna say is this, Dom, is it's good if Whippo makes it and he's really good. If he's not like if he's like the ninth best jungler, it doesn't count in our world for like, but if he actually is like a top 4 jungler in EU. We have to have a serious conversation about your role, Dom. Because think of some of the players, fucking Score, Ambition, like motherfuckers don't even, they just swap to your role and start winning worlds and shit. Just like, what's that? What's your role? That was supposed to be the hardest.
I mean, shit, like I literally did it. When I started playing with Dignitas, a lot of people don't know this. When I started jungling for Dignitas, I was a top laner for the previous team that I played for. So I literally was just recruited as a top laner and I just role swapped and just started playing the role. I mean, like this was something as, like, I didn't play jungle because I thought that like, I was God's gift to jungle. I started playing jungle because I kept on playing solo queue, and I thought my junglers were so fucking bad that like I could just do it better and no one else could play the role. That was literally my mentality. And I feel
like the reason why those AD carries always swap to support, isn't it?
I feel like it's everywhere.
Support, like I could do it. I could do better than that. Yeah, of course.
No, I just feel like that's how most people do it. I'm sure that this goes through almost all these players' minds when they end up role swapping. They're like, dude, how fucking shit are supports and junglers like compared to like other laners? Like laners in general are way more talented at League of Legends, and you have to know way more to lane proficiently at like a competitive level than you need to be able to like play jungle, especially like the way that they've changed the role, right? Like I think the jungle is probably the easiest it's ever been to swap to. Like you fucking full clear 90% of the games. Like, what the fuck? Dude, you turn your brain off, you lock Udyr, you full clear, do the crab back, you buy your fucking CDR boots, maybe you have to sell a couple biscuits on the way because they changed the price by 50 gold. Nice. Great. I'm really accomplished. Like, anyone can fucking play this role anymore. They ruined, like, the essence of what made jungle fun, which was, like, when you had, like, the Lease, Rek'Sai, Lee Sin, like, meta, and you could path in any direction, anyone could be anywhere at any time, and you had to be able to, like, read the map, outplay, counter gank. Like, that's what I think the jungle is missing right now. So honestly, like, fuck it, man. Everyone should role swap to jungle. This role is garbage to fucking play.
Leader, I've got a question for you.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Do you, because you're both Norwegian, do you actually know NuclearInt much?
I don't really know him on a personal level. He just sometimes, like, when he has his breaks, like, from time to time, he just asks me what is good in the meta and stuff, and he just asks me about champions, which I'm, like, always happy to help him with. But besides that, not really, no.
Because obviously a lot of people are going to be super down on him, right? Because he had a couple of bad splits, and obviously, even the Astralis team wasn't very good, and they looked better when they replaced him, Magi Felix, to be fair. But I've just wondered, because people are going to think you're going to be biased because you're both Norwegian, or maybe your mates or something. What do you actually think of him going to Excel? What do you think of that, mate?
Do you mean from, like, the community?
Like, is he good enough? Should he be in LEC,
Yeah.
do you think? Will he be a good player for them? Is the right team for him? What do you think?
Should he be in LEC? Okay, so the mid laners.
I mean, I think mid lane is pretty weak right now, right? Like, you have Blue. I have low opinion of him. We'll see how good this nuclear guy is. I mean, I think Vetio is promising, but he's pretty young.
It's okay.
Magi Felix is like, I mean, that's like already like 4 or 5 mid laners that, you know, are pretty, I guess, not like solid.
Questionable, at least.
Yeah, questionable, sure.
You look like, what I think is like he should have just stayed on his contract in Astralis. Like, he should just be chilling there as well, I think. And Czekolad should not be kicked for NuclearInt, at least. It would be fine if he got replaced by someone that is like better than him, but I don't think NuclearInt is better than him. I think NuclearInt is like, I think even Czekolad is probably better than NuclearInt. NuclearInt, like he said on Twitter, like he has his own, like he had his own problems, right? Always, and it's like sleeping problems or whatever problems, right? And he takes his breaks occasionally.
I mean,
like,
look, if you were on the Astralis lineup, you'd have sleeping problems too. So that's all I'm saying. Like,
but point is, I don't think he's good enough to replace a player in the LEC.
Okay, fair enough. Well, to be fair, Dom, you would have sleeping problems right up until the moment that they just cut the power to your apartment because you didn't get paid your wages by Astralis. So at that point, you'd be sleeping fucking nice and easy. You know, no natural light whatsoever. You know, not a lot of food. You know, get used to not having too much digestion going on.
God
Shout out
damn.
to the Astralis org, piece of shit. From day one till the
Jesus,
end,
man.
so. I can say this shit. Oh, here's what you know. I'll give, actually, you know what? Because I never normally do it, I'll give one piece of credit to Astralis org on this podcast, which is, tell you what, despite how much beef I've had with them and how much stuff I've exposed about them, they've never, as far as I know, turned down someone actually coming on one of these shows. Hence why we've actually had players, I don't know if we had Astralis players recently, we had them when they were Origin players, certainly. I've had players from well, so I'll give fair play to that. I can at least appreciate orgs who don't like try to fucking play God with, like, if the player wants to come on the show, you just let them do it generally. I always respect orgs that do that. Fnatic does the same, I have to say.
Yeah. I think it's fair. Next, we just got to get, rioters to come on the show. Once we get Freak on the show, then we'll have the banger,
That would be a sick episode, I'm telling you right now. Listen, Freak, if you want to turn your whole career around, mate, the whole perception, you know where to come, baby. Just saying.
Perfect.
Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, just to speak on the thing the leader said before about Czekolad, from what we heard from Young Buck last week, I mean, Thor can correct me on this if I misrepresent any of this, but I think that a lot of it was because of, like, champion pull issues from Czekolad. Like, he pretty much, I think Young Buck said he could play 2.5 champions. And then also, like, they said that he had some, like, issues with, like, scrimming, like, how serious he was able to take it, or, like, like, if you have, like, multiple players on a team that don't take scrims super seriously, it's, like, really hard for the team to improve. So I think that there might be, like, other factors that are being factored in there. But yeah, I mean, it definitely feels bad. I mean, I kind of feel like the former top laner for Vitality is in the same spot where, like, Zagendo is really hyped coming in, and then he gets one split on a team that's, like, a complete train wreck, and then what happens to him now? Like, what happened to all of his hype? People just, like, he got replaced for SLT. No one even knows, like, what's happening. They're like, oh, well, shit, I guess he wasn't that good. And what, is his whole career fucked now? Like, what actually happens? I think that's the hardest issue with these types of things.
Look, I think Shigenda is good, but, like, I would say with this coaching stuff that we have, I actually trust them with the decision they made, Like, if they think this is the correct decision, I think, like, I will trust in them, because my coaches, they are fucking good, I think. Like, they're so passionate about everything.
Do you have to coach them, or is that how?
No, luckily I didn't this time around, like, even though I didn't know anything, but this time,
okay,
not this time.
Perfect, that's
but,
better.
Like, they're so, like, it's like stuff that coaches wouldn't have done, like, a couple of years ago, I think. Like, honestly, like, they even teach you how to lane. Like these two coaches will tell you about stuff in lane, like stuff that you should do, like, all of this stuff, like, and it's really good. And like, there's nothing but praise to them, like, so yeah, I will trust them in the decision they made with SLT. If they think is good, I will trust in them. If that guy has potential, I will trust in them in there. And so far, he's been like he has his on and off moments, but when he's, like, doing good, he's, like, he has a lot of impact,
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I like him quite a lot because he can flex my champions as well, and
Yeah, there's another thing people don't think about, by the way, Dom. Obviously, you have to have the right player who can do it. But one of the things I immediately thought about when I was trying to think of this issue of Leaders Champion Pool was, look at what we just saw Xiaohu do in RNG, Dom, where he can play, like, the mid lane mages at fucking top lane, or he plays up champions that are top laners, but he could flex it with the mid laner. Like, if you actually could pull that off, if you have the right team, that's mega powerful. That's what G2 Show does.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Is that something you think you're going to try in the actual split then, Leader? Because if you can make it work, obviously it'd be cool.
I always, like, I think every year I've always played top lane, like, in some of the competitive games. Like, even against the game against Fnatic, that I played Akali in 2000.
Right. Yes.
You love playing Akali top. That's like your pick. You're Akali top. You love that shit.
I was playing Akali top against Bwipo
with
that
Ignite.
game.
You love that shit.
Yeah, I would not ignite that time around, but yeah, I was playing actually Akali top against him, like, so I can always like flex this, and it's like if stuff like this happens, like I can play two roles basically, like yeah, double the value of me, something like that. But people don't see that anyways. It's whatever.
Yeah.
Jokes aside, it is quite valuable, I would say, to be able to flex roles because it's something some people would have to always think about. Like,
Yes.
imagine if there's like a random rise in top lane, and you're like, holy shit, this champion is actually fucking broken against my champion. I can't really play the game.
You call the
Something
jungler
like this,
once and then the game is over. But yeah.
Yeah, or like I will just play Lucian top if I think Lucian top is good here. Like I will just play it, and then enemy top player will be completely mind blown when he goes. It's like I don't know his fleet footwork Gnar with domination. And there's suddenly a Lucian coming up and saying what's up, and then one shot you on the tower level 2, level 1v1 dive, stuff like this, And people will obviously choke as well. I think people really undervalue the mental game of competitive games. Like, if you are stronger mentally, like more comfortable and everything, and the other guy is choking, like he will, like, enemy will play so much worse and will do so many more mistakes compared to you, and you can legit just win the games just because of that.
I should ask you a little bit more on that. Expand a bit, because there's another thing that I think people's an angle that people missed. Like I tried to explain earlier, it's not just that you play Yasuo and Irelia. You had all these fucking sick melee champions, and you were playing almost every version of the matchups against the normal meta champions. So along those lines, I'm sure that's actually part of your strength, right? Is the idea that like the other mid laner might have to play a matchup he never ever plays. What's going to make him feel uncomfortable, even if he's on the beloved Orianna or a Zed? It might be fucking hard for him if he's ever played that particular. Like if people don't know, you literally play stuff like Zed if it's available, even if other people don't.
It's stuff like this. People will never know the limits, and suddenly something that shouldn't happen will happen. You might randomly get chunked for free, which will give the mid laner prio, and then suddenly there's a Zed that is like roaming with prio, and the enemy mid doesn't know what to do because they're scared, because it's an assassin with a death mark.
Yeah, can one shot you, right? So.
Yeah, like randomly one shot you. So they're like, holy shit, guys, I need to play safe here. I will go exhaust and I will rush Seekers. Maybe I can play the game or something like this. And suddenly you don't have teleport as well as a mid laner. I think this spell is so fucking OP, by the way. This shit is so broken. But people will always choke. Like, they will build differently. Like, they will just... Most of their attention span will just go into the matchup and not think about the game as comfortably as they usually would on the in a comfortable matchup. Something that is going on and on again.
We got to see examples of this in MSI, right? Where Chaz on Pentanet was able to pull out things like Zed versus UOL, who is a massive favorite against them, and just take games off the fact that it's like, yeah, this guy just blind picked Zed. What the fuck do we pick into it? Oh, well, Vlad hard counter Zed, so I'm going to pick that. And then you look at him, it's like, wait, what? No Man's is playing Vlad here. He doesn't know, like, the limits of Zed. He doesn't know, like, how to actually, like, play this matchup so that it's winning for Vlad. He's probably just played it a couple times or used to play the matchup in different metas with different items, and matchups obviously change season to season depending on how strong different items are in the game. So I think that there's definitely a lot of value there. I mean, one thing I wanted to ask you about is before we wrap things up here, is just like about the whole Vitality team identity, because so far, like, most of the teams that Crownshot's been on have been Crownshot focused teams. Like, if you look at how SK played last year, it was all around like the bot lane, right? Like, it was all about, can Crownshot get big enough to carry the game? When Crownshot joined Vitality, it was pretty much the same thing, where they would win games off bot lane specifically. Is there any like worry about having too many players that want to be played through? Like, obviously, if you're playing your picks, you're going to need some level of like resources. Selfmade's obviously a carry-oriented jungler. Crownshot wants to carry the game as well. Like, do you think that there's like any like push and pull here, or like how are you guys going to kind of like avoid this? Or do you think that maybe Crownshot had to play this way out of necessity because his other teams were shit and he's actually very versatile?
I think that's what it is. Like, this is the reason. I think all these other teammates were probably incompetent and didn't know what to do for themselves, for their lane properly. They were just like brain AFK and just playing the game, like pushing waves or something. And they were like not actively thinking about how to get proper advantages. And I think Crownshot does that a lot. Crownshot is super communicative about his lane, and us as mid jungle can always make the decision, right? We can always make the decision of playing around his call, or if there's something else that we can see that is better. And I would say me and Oscar are like, which is Selfmade, are really like good enough to think for ourselves.
You know him like that, so you can call him first name basis. course.
No, he doesn't want to be called Selfmade. Like that's the thing. But anyways, like
Call him 100 times if he comes on the show.
like
Self-made man. Actually, we're gonna go the whole fucking
exactly.
way. L9
SMM.
self-made man. Yeah, sure.
it's just people's like there's not really one carry in the game. There's not really one guy that needs resources or anything. There's always like one guy that calls for something. Some other people will not call for something, and they will just go with the play if they make it sound good, you know. Otherwise, games will just be AFK. Nothing will happen. You will slowly lose, or you will slowly accidentally win a fight, and you will just win the game. I think Crowny is like super communicative about everything he does. So, and he knows how to win the game. But then again, I think he actually has teammates that know how to win the game as well and can talk for themselves this time around. So he, I think it's going to be show for everyone on our team. Honestly, like everyone will make a show.
Yeah, come on, Dom. First of all, Crownshot was in a team with Nemesis and Selfmade, and then you've heard him on stream with LS and Nemesis. Like, he's the fucking bottom dog, isn't he? He just gets himself straight in that hierarchy. So I get it. Like in SK, apparently that is the story I've heard, that like the rest of the team just had no crowd to play, and he was just sort of like, look, well, I can call around myself. So if we do this will work. And they just won games doing that. But like, I think if you look at his dynamic when he's on those streams and in some of these teams I've heard, I think actually he would sacrifice if he thinks it's the stronger way to play. I think if it's the right champion, he'll play, but he doesn't seem to me like a guy who's like, hey, you must play around. He's not like Forgiven or someone ridiculous like that, as far as I can tell.
And I wasn't even talking so much about like mentality, but there's also like proficiency, like how well you can execute that style. Because there's players that are just simply better at like playing without resources than other. Like they'll understand like, okay, well they're gonna have less gold in the game, or they're gonna like be behind the enemy AD. How can they be as useful as possible with the hand that they're dealt? And you know, like essentially the question is like, we haven't seen Crownshot have to do this before, so like how is it going to end up
maybe at the beginning, like from what I remember, I think when he was initially in SK and he had Dreams as a support, Dreams used to roam quite a lot, so he used to actually, in theory, not get played through like all the time then. It was decent, but that was like his first ever split, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, this has been one of the longer episodes, 2 hours and 5 minutes. This is where we normally open up the floor. If there's any final topic that you want to discuss, anything that we didn't cover in LEC that you had an opinion on, that you wanted to get out, or you want to share with us, we're down for it. If not, we can end the episode here. Is there anything you wanted to talk about on the show that you didn't get a chance to?
I mean, the only thing that I can say is that XL is going to be 10th place this split. That's all. It's like a guaranteed.
All right.
Wait, SK? Or XL?
No,
XL.
Oh, okay. I thought you said SK. Okay. XL is going to be 10th place, guaranteed this split. All right. You heard it here first. Well, thanks for joining us, Leader. It was a good one. Lots of things that we covered here. And good luck in the next split. It's about time, man. You deserve the shot. So we will hopefully have you on sometime soon.
Hopefully.
All right. See ya.
Yeah.